Right. Hi there, Terence McGuana here, and today I'm joined by fellow YouTuber Iamtheicelord, Wes, and we're going to flap our gums about CGI and practical effects, and just, two old men yelling at a cloud, basically, right? Because, but let's kick things. How are you doing tonight, Wes? How are you feeling?
I'm doing all right, man. I've been doing pretty good. I haven't been on that often as far as like streams and such, but I'm glad you invited me back, man.
Yeah, well, you were the first guy I had this month, and I was doing a whole month of lives, and it's nice to go full circle and have you
Yeah,
back. And thank you for doing this again. I really, truly appreciate it.
my pleasure.
Hi, Sophie. How are you doing? Now, I was just going to kick things off and ask you this. Can you remember the first example of CGI effects you saw, and what did you think of them then?
Well, to be honest, it probably had to have been snuck in when I wasn't thinking about it because there's stuff that I didn't realize was CGI that I saw it at the time, and I thought it was just practical effects. I would have to say it has to be like Terminator 2, maybe, or the
Right.
Lawnmower Man that I first realized that it was actual CGI. But
Hi, Dan.
they skipped some past me, I think.
Yeah, and I feel the same way because I saw Tron at a very young age, and I just thought it was just the magic of cinema how they
Yeah.
achieved that, right up until that point. And I remember seeing stuff like The Last Starfighter where they had CGI space battle scenes directed
Yeah.
by Michael Myers, no less, Nick Castle, who played him in the original film. And what was the Willow was another one where they had that morphing effect.
Oh yeah, wasn't
There
that
was a,
partially practical with like Val Kilmer turning into like a pig
Yeah,
or something?
yeah. There's a lot. The majority of the film is practical, but there's a sequence in it where Willow turns the crow into a woman with a wand, and he's doing all these magic spells.
Oh yeah.
And there's the morphing effect where she transforms into like a tiger, and then
Oh,
eventually into a woman because he
oh,
can't get the spell right. And it was the first. I think it was the first use of that morphine effect. I may be wrong. It was also in the Abyss as well, where they had
oh,
that water snake creature.
yeah. I
So
love
things,
the Abyss. I've seen the Abyss too in the theaters. I didn't realize that, at the time I didn't think that it was CGI, but how else could you do it? I guess. I mean,
yeah,
really good effects. You look back on some of the stuff that we had just mentioned now, and
yeah.
if transferred to 4K, it probably doesn't translate that well.
Well, let me just interject there, Mr. Dan in Horror. How are you doing tonight? And Sophie and AHA channel, nice to see you here. And
Well,
Mr. Dan in Horror's made an excellent point actually, and I remember this one. Young Sherlock Holmes had some very early CGI, and it didn't look too bad. I know the exact sequence he's talking about. And in Young Sherlock Holmes, characters hallucinate. They get hit with like a poisonous dart that makes them
okay.
hallucinate things that aren't there. And there's a
Yeah.
scene in it. There's a scene in it where a stained glass window of a night comes alive.
Oh
Like the
wow.
whole comes out of the window, and it's like trying to attack them.
Yeah.
That was CGI. That was really impressive, and that holds up, I think, because it is so out there. Because it's meant to be a stained glass window impression of a night. It doesn't look half bad.
I think I saw that in the theaters back in the day. It's been a while. I first
Right?
you were talking about the Robert Downey Jr. movie. I was like, I don't know, maybe so. No,
What Robert Downey Jr. What Robert Downey Jr. movie?
like a Sherlock Holmes movie with Robert Downey Jr. and Jude Law.
Oh yeah, that one.
First,
Yeah, but
no, don't.
I remember he sounded more like Wayne Gale from Natural Born Killers.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're
yeah,
going live from Batongaville, like
yeah.
Batonga. You could tell with all the blood and carnage all around me. Yeah, he sounded more like that in Sherlock Holmes than like an
Yeah,
English gentleman from the Victorian era.
yeah.
Weird.
He's got one voice, it seems, and Robert Downey, if he does an English accent or something, it just throws it off.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? But yeah,
Yeah.
young Sherlock Holmes is one of those films that's actually got a really creepy moment in it that
Oh,
is always stuck with me since I was a kid, where the character Watson, he gets hit with the tranquilizer dart, and because he's a little bit overweight, he hallucinates that, and he's trying to watch his weight in the film. He hallucinates that all these cream cakes come alive, like anthropomorphized cream cakes, and they're all these little cute little cream cakes going, oh, and they force themselves into his mouth, like, and he's like screaming. That's always creeped me out. It's such a weird moment.
Oh yeah, man. Well, that's my worst nightmare. Being force-fed some cream pies, and I'm on a diet. I'm always on a diet, trying to get smaller. It's a constant battle with me. But damn, that would be terrible to have that dream, or to hallucinate, for that matter.
Well, I've since I quit drinking, I've totally disappeared into the donut drawer. I've been donut daft, honestly. Homer Simpson would be proud. Oh, hi, Curly Girl. Nice to join us. And Anna Agbai, thank you. Give us a thumbs up. And what was I going to say as well? Oh, God, I've always got something to say, Anna. Yeah, Terminator 2. You mentioned Terminator 2, right? And I think that was the big, in the public consciousness, that was the big game changer, where everyone was like, see, how did they do that?
Yeah.
And I remember its opening weekend, and I was so excited about Terminator 2. I remember taping the Guns N' Roses video off the television, and like going through it like people do nowadays, where they go through trailers and they find information. There's people that make get a lot of clickbait on YouTube doing that, right?
Okay.
I was doing that then with the Guns N' Roses video, because I just wanted to know what was happening in this, and I'd read stuff about this new Terminator that was going to be made of liquid metal and stuff like that, so I knew that was coming. And then when I saw it that weekend, when Arnold Schwarzenegger first shoots him with a shotgun, and then you see all the bullet holes all start to seal up. That was it. That was it. That was the moment. And after that movie, it was just CGI. And I think a few months later, the Michael Jackson video, Black and White, came out. Yes. She's black, it's white. And they had the morphing effect, where they were all changing, all the people at the end. And John Landis comes up and goes, oh, wow, how did you do that? Right? And
I remember when that came out. It came out here on like Fox 32, which is like the local Fox station, I guess. But I think it came out during The Simpsons or something. That's when it premiered out here in America. I don't know.
I just remember it being like autumn in '91, and it was in this country. What's his face? Bryan Adams. Everything I Do. Was number one. That was number one in the charts forever. Like, we're talking like 30 weeks or something. No, maybe not as much as that, but it just felt like that. And it was Michael Jackson. It was Michael Jackson it took to take him off of there, right? Really? Yeah, it took Michael Jackson to get rid of Bryan Adams. And I just remember at that time being so excited about CGI, that this was revolutionary. From the Terminator 2 and the Michael Jackson video, that was it. It was just like, so excited. But
well, I mean, I think that's the one where Eddie Murphy's like a pharaoh, isn't it? And Michael Jackson's like.
I remember the time.
Oh gosh, a little bit.
Man and Eddie Murphy, directed by John Singleton.
Oh. Interesting.
Straight after doing Boys in the Hood, his debut movie, he directs a Michael Jackson video. Can you believe it? You know what I mean? Unbelievable.
I didn't know that Johnson directed that. Oh my gosh.
It's true. That had a wee moment of CGI at the very beginning, where he sort of throws down the sand and it morphs into Michael Jackson. Absolutely brilliant.
That was. I mean, from what I understand, the 4K restorations, or whatever you want to call them, they don't translate all that well with the old CGI. Like I saw someone the other day doing a top 5 of the worst 4K restorations or whatever, and one of them was Terminator 2. Like, it didn't translate or something. It was softened too much. I'm not really. but it looked so good back in the day. I mean, I can't imagine what it looks like now. I mean, if you look at like Lawnmower Man, that stuff
Yeah.
is really almost it's almost cringeworthy how basic the CGI was during that time, or that movie at least.
Yeah.
That was what you can get on an Oculus now, no problem. I mean, just uh, as far as that goes, it was some real basic CGI with it was like virtual worlds or something. I remember seeing that in the theater. I had, if I have a dream about it after I saw it in the theater, that's generally a good thing. It means it's
What,
affected my.
Lawnmower Man?
Yeah, I don't know
Yeah,
what I wanted to live
me
in
and
the
my
virtual.
sister went to see it when it came out, and I was very impressed with it. But to watch it now, I mean, it has a get out of jail free card because it's set in a virtual reality simulator, right? So the fact that it looks like a PlayStation game is fine, right?
Yeah,
But I remember being very impressed with it then. But watching it now, I'm like, oh, it's more of a sort of embarrassing nostalgia. Do
right.
you understand? It just
Well,
looks
I know
dated.
exactly what you mean.
Yeah,
It,
right.
I mean, back in the day, it was magical, no problem. I mean, it was the coolest damn thing I'd ever seen. Uh, and now it's like, wow, going back, it doesn't look quite as impressive. But I mean, but that's only because of all the stuff they've been just chucking out there. I mean, all the CGI and such that's been done over the last 20 some years,
Yeah,
it's kind of crazy. Um, it's almost gotten to the point of too much, like
yeah.
I can stand a Transformers film, because I don't know what I'm looking at. It looks like a big
Oh,
morphing pile of digital artifacts. I saw it in
it's
the
just
theater, first Terminator, or not Terminator movie, but the first Transformers movie, and I couldn't see. I couldn't tell what was happening. I've got bad
yeah.
eyes.
I think the design for the robots was really um, it was really hard on the eye, to be honest. They did a recent one, Bumblebee, a few years ago,
Yeah.
where they made them look a little bit more like the 1980s equivalent of the Transformers. You could make them out a little bit better.
Okay.
Whereas those ones from 2007 and onwards, it
Yeah.
just it just looked like an absolute mess.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Right? That's
That
it's
really turned me off to CGI. I was like, I don't know. It wasn't for me.
Oh, no,
I
I've
don't
got
know what
plenty of example. I mean,
it
I remember going to see I remember going to see The Mummy Returns in
was.
2001, and I had a terrible hangover as well, a real killer hangover. That was not the cure for it.
Oh, that's got to
And
make it.
yeah, and that whole scene at the end where they had the fake rock, Dwayne Johnson is a giant scorpion.
Oh boy.
Oh, I've never seen it since. I don't want to see it, but I looked at just a picture of it, this dead-eyed sort of thing. And that's the thing, the uncanny valley, isn't it? That's what they call it, where it just doesn't convince you that
Yeah.
it's real. You just feel that you're looking at some dead-eyed person. And that's when they try and recreate a human being or even an
Yeah.
animal, it just takes you right out of the film. If I had to
Yeah.
use another example, and interrupt me anytime you want, right?
Okay.
The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, the one that they
Ah,
did with Tilda Swinton, it was all right, as an adaptation. But there was
sure.
this scene. One of the big main characters is Aslan the lion, right? The
Right.
lion, he's right there in the title. So I was so looking forward to seeing this character, right? And they got some of the CGI and it wasn't too bad, but then when Aslan showed up and he had that mechanical walk, he just
Yeah.
looked so mechanical. My heart sank. The movie was ruined for me when they did that.
I brought my kids to the movie theater to see The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. And so I wasn't paying that great of attention to it, but I can see what you're talking about, though. I mean, it definitely takes you out of the experience when you see something it just obviously has been computer generated. it really does bring the whole movie going experience.
It really does. And looking at your T-shirt there, American Werewolf in London was such a pioneering film in visual effects, right? The transformation, right? That was my midwife into horror, right? That was the first proper horror movie that just I don't know if I'd seen a horror movie before. I don't remember, but that one scarred me as a child, right? The transformation. Just seeing after that, just seeing a brief moment from it, just seeing David Naughton, and it's I just see that man, and I was like, right, I cannot watch this, right?
Yeah.
It would just absolutely terrify me.
Right.
And that transformation scene was just revolutionary, right? It won the very first visual effects award for makeup effects. Rick Baker, who beat out Stan Winston. Stan Winston was up against him for Heartbeats with Andy Kaufman, which that's who he was up against for that year, and it was the very first ever Academy Award for special visual effects, makeup effects, and
Heartbeats. But I mean, American Werewolf in London. Who can? I mean, that's one of the best transformation scenes of all time. You know,
it still holds up. Still, I watched it last year, and it still holds up amazingly. What was it? But then you jumped to 1997, I think it was, when they had An American Werewolf in Paris, right? A sequel that nobody asked for, and and they'd had CGI werewolves in that, and they were awful, right?
Yeah,
they were just that whole mechanical, the way that the animal walks, it just looks so mechanical, and the skin, the fur. I mean, that was before they'd done. I think Monsters Inc. was the first movie they got where they got fur right.
Really?
No, a friend of mine who's really into CGI, he said that. I said, see, when they did that fur effect on Monsters Inc., that was them finally getting it right. Yeah. But when they were doing Werewolf in Paris, it was just an eyesore. I've not seen that since renting it in '98 or something on cassette, and I don't ever want to sit through it again.
Oh, I understand. I mean, it wasn't it was a pretty. It was kind of a rehash of the first one, anyways, but nothing you'd want to revisit anyhow. But the computer, the CGI in that one definitely is not up to par with today's standards, at least. Not that any CGI these days will bring me out of the experience. That's why. I mean, I've seen a lot of the new Marvel movies and whatnot.
Yeah.
But to be honest with you, it just doesn't do anything for me. It's not that impressive as it's supposed to be, and how much it costs. I mean, good Lord, I wish that they could, some of the stuff isn't possible without CGI, like a lot of the stuff from Rings and all these Marvel movies, the Avengers and whatnot. Like, stuff wouldn't be possible to be filmed in a practical sense. But
no, exactly. But the thing is, as well, even when you look at, you were talking about that 4K transfer. I watched a gentleman review the Lord of the Rings 4K, and he said that very thing. He said that somehow that the CGI is botched in these, as opposed to, say, the DVD release or the Blu-ray or something like that. That's very interesting.
Really?
I don't know. Yeah.
My sound, because the CDC is calling me again. I don't know exactly what for.
Okay, you must be patient zero of the monkeypox. Are you allowed to say monkeypox? No, not go over the last one. Here's another one. It's just. But I mean, I think that there's definitely. I've noticed recently there's been a bit of a resurgence with practical effects, and I'm happy to see that. Have you seen The Sadness yet?
No. I've heard so much about it. Everyone's reviewing it, but I haven't seen it yet. I don't know if it's on Shudder. I think
it's on Shudder. Yeah.
It is.
Well, I know that Ocean Chicks is going to have it. They're doing a live. It's going to be 3 a.m. in the morning here. So God. I'm going to need a lot of coffee for that one. But that's that's one thing. The film is an adrenaline rush. especially the second act. The second act is just relentless, right?
Okay.
And the thing that's what kind of put me off it while watching it was that so many people were comparing it. That I'd heard compared it to Brain Dead, Dead Alive, right?
Oh, that's a good example of some amazing visual effects.
Yeah, my expectations was that it was going to have this just absolute bloodbath in the final act, like that did, right?
Yeah.
Which it doesn't.
No.
It doesn't. Yeah, and I wish nobody said that. I think I would enjoy it more. I wish if I didn't get my expectations boosted up like that.
Sure.
So I've got some
I'm afraid to watch it now because there's so many people that just absolutely love the movie. I have a fear that I'm going to not like it as much or something, it's just a worry of mine.
Yeah, well, I would lower your expectations, right? Because I think it has been hyped up. That's what I'm saying. The hype. It's strange to be hyped up about a foreign film. Wow, right?
Right.
When's that ever happened?
Taiwanese,
yeah, and I wish I never got hyped up about it. So I'm just going to have a look through the comments, right? So there's Horror Flicks with Nick. Hi, Horror Flicks with Nick. Thank you for visiting. Also, Sophie's saying here, I think I do prefer practical effects over CGI, but what you can achieve with CGI is incredible. Yeah, right on. And she loves your shirt there as well. So you've got thanks. A fan there, Icelord. By the way, I've left a link to Icelord in the description. If you want to connect to his channel, feel free. And it's brilliant, honestly. The guy's hilarious.
Sure.
And Richie Rich Jamaican Kitchen. Blessings, everyone. Hi, Richie Rich. And who else we got here?
Max there, the one and only MSJ. He's a good guy. He's a real cool guy. We're thinking, and I'm working on it. I haven't gotten too far along with StreamYard, but we're thinking of doing a live stream of a kind of a review of a Serbian film. He's doing a review, so he was thinking about doing some kind of I don't know how that's going to work exactly. I haven't seen the movie in quite a few years, but
Serbian film, right? That is one film I'm just not going to watch. I've seen the King Need Gore breakdown of it. That was enough for me.
Yeah. It's expensive. I don't know.
It's one of those ones that's made to be offensive. I don't care if the guy says it's some sort of political allegory. Right. I think he's just there to rattle people's cages. I'm sorry.
It has to be. It's aside from those couple of scenes that are just over the top, it's not all that bad a film. I mean, but it's it almost drives you away with some of the subject matter they deal with.
Yeah, it's just shock value to me. Not interested. Sorry, but Mr. Dan, anyone remember Dragon Slayer? I think it was pre-CGI. I know they built a giant dragon. Ring any bells, Wes?
That does remind me of it's not Dragon Slayer, but it's the one with Sean Connery.
And what was that called?
Boy.
And Dennis Quaid.
Yeah.
And they pretend to slay dragons. Dragon.
It's not.
Why, Lord?
Yeah.
Dragon Heart.
There you go.
Hi, B-Movie Badness. Excellent. Hiya. Awesome. Brilliant.
Jumping in, right?
And also, what I was going to say, yes, Mr. Dan, I have seen Dragon Slayer, not in a long time. When it came out on videotape, early 80s, and the dragon and the effects were just magnificent. Probably holds up today, I would imagine, as well. Oh, yeah. And then I remembers Dragon Slayer as well. It's great taste.
I haven't seen that one. I feel like I'm behind, man.
It's an old Disney one. It absolutely tanked at the box. I mean, Disney were box office poison in the early 80s, right? I don't think they had one single hit movie. Maybe The Fox and the Hound, I think that was the only hit movie they had up until The Little Mermaid, when they had that resurgence.
Oh, right?
And but yeah, Dragon Slayer was one of the better ones. I don't really remember the plot too much, but I remember the effects for the dragon were just gorgeous, even in comparison to some of its contemporaries, like the Never-Ending Story, like Falkor. Yeah. I remember as a kid just being absolutely mesmerized by Falkor, the Luck Dragon. And then when I watched it about 2 years ago, it just looked like a big, dumb puppet, right? I mean, I still love it, right? And the bit with the horse drowns and all that still kills me every time. But I was a wee bit jaded by the state of Falkor.
Oh, yeah.
The Luck Dragon.
At least wasn't he just totally mechanical? Wasn't that totally practical effects on Falkor?
Oh, yeah.
Exception of
all of it. All of those movies were practical. I think, like Dan said earlier, with the exception of what's the one, Sherlock Holmes, where they had that stained glass window come alive. That was one of the few times we've seen CGI being used, and obviously Tron, The Last Starfighter.
Okay.
The puppets in Labyrinth are great. The Labyrinth is just an absolute perfect movie. And
I love that one.
I'm going to go off on a wee tangent, but when I'm telling you the absolute truth, when I saw The Labyrinth on videotape in 1987, right? Sure. And you know something? I hated it. I absolutely hated it. And I hated it for absolute decades, right? I was like, oh, everybody's going on about The Labyrinth and all that. And I was like, Then one night, I used to work night shift, as you know, right? And in this office by myself, and people would leave DVDs lying around, and we had one of those wee tiny DVD players that we'd watch on the night shift. And Labyrinth was one of the... No, I'm a liar. I bought it for one of my cousins who were they're like 10, 20 years younger than me. And I bought them Labyrinth because I thought all kids love the Labyrinth. Don't know why. And I bought it that day, went to my work, and I thought, I'll give it a go. What I'll do is I'll watch the extra stuff, the special features, right? Because at least that'll be interesting. So I watched all that stuff first with Jim Henson, David Bowie, and then I just thought, okay, I'll watch it. And that was it. You know what I mean? Perfect. What an absolutely perfect film. And that's strange. Oh, yeah. I was 8 years old getting out of the video store, and it was made for my age group. And I just didn't like it. But at the time, Nightmare on Elm Street was my jam when I was 8 years old. But then, I was 25, 28 or something, and Labyrinth. I was just like, this is the best.
Yeah.
Right.
I was in love with Labyrinth from day one. I don't think I saw it at the theaters, but like you said, got a VHS copy of it. I just watched the hell out of that thing. I loved Labyrinth, but that's some of the real real early Jim Henson stuff, right? Or well, not real early, but I guess it's definitely some of Jim Henson's work, right?
Yeah, and it is. Jim Henson directed the movie. He is the director of Labyrinth, so it's pretty much entirely his pet project.
Well, like we were saying, I'm sure there were a lot of folks that were working under him, and he probably got a lot of the credit and whatnot. But he was kind of a pioneer of just puppetry in general. Really cool. I've seen some of his earlier films; they're kind of interesting. But
oh yeah, we should just talk about Labyrinth all night, Sophie. I'll be up for that. Even sing the songs as well,
Dance.
Oh yeah. See there's a really interesting thing. I might be a wee bit incorrect here, but I remember from the DVD extras, right? I'm sorry we're going on about Labyrinth, right? But the baby in the film, the you remind me of the baby, right? The actual child. They kidnapped.
Oh, yeah, baby.
Yeah. Right. Well, that there's a really interesting story. I think it was the art director who would do paintings of the scenes. That the sort of this is what the scene is going to look like in a big painting, and show them it so they get an idea. He did this painting of the baby surrounded by goblins, right?
Oh.
Before they'd even shot anything during the sort of pre-production. Okay. And apparently, it may be. This is where I might get it wrong, right? But okay. The baby is his wife got pregnant not long after he painted this picture. It might not be him. I think it is, but right, I'll check this later. Okay. That his wife got pregnant not too long after he painted this picture, and the baby that is in the film is that baby.
Really?
She got pregnant. So they'd almost like, he felt it was kind of spooky that he'd already painted his own kid.
Wow.
Before it was even born, you know, something along those lines. I might be wrong, but it's something kind of eerily magical like that. But yeah,
it sounds like something that would happen, you know, just one of those things, those chance occasions, you know. That is so wild. I had no idea.
Such a weird collaboration as well, because it was produced by George Lucas, right? And it tanked as well. The Labyrinth was a flop, right? George Lucas was the producer of that film. Jim Henson was the director. Terry Jones from Monty Python wrote the screenplay, right? Yeah, that's where it's got all that humor. It's like, oh, go that way. And it's like, oh, I'm so glad they didn't go that way. That would lead right to that castle, right? That's pure Monty Python type humor. Yeah, it's just such a strange collaboration, and it's just,
I loved Jennifer Connelly in that movie, man. She was so beautiful back in the day, and now she looks like she hasn't aged, to be honest with you. I mean, she's amazing. She was
such an incredible actor, Jennifer Connelly. I was absolutely floored by her performance in Requiem for a Dream, to be honest. And that was one that had escaped me for a long, long time. But yeah, she's a brilliant actor. I know she's in the new Top Gun, which everybody's raving about. I'm like, I don't know. I don't like Top Gun. It's like a recruitment film to me. Right?
I haven't seen Top Gun, but I've only seen the old one, and gosh, I can't imagine what they've done to it. You know what they've. It's obviously a sequel. It's not like a rehashing, but
yeah. Nye is absolutely correct. A Labyrinth watch party as well, but I would be so in for that anytime. Like, just name the place, name the channel.
Yeah.
And what was going right? So I'm getting right off topic. Even though Labyrinth is visually wonderful. I'd say if I had to criticize any of the effects in it, is the chili down with fire, that moment with those puppets, right?
Okay.
Those look kind of awful. I mean, they look like Muppets, right? But they've got this terrible blue screen behind them. That's the only bit in it that I would say kind of sucks. Right? I love that song, but that bit sucks.
It's like a media book or something of that nature for Labyrinth. And I haven't seen it in so many years, but I used to watch it over and over again as a kid. Loved that movie so much, but I don't know what it was. I think it was just Jennifer Connelly, to be honest with you. Yeah, the hots for her.
I don't know. I had more of a crush on her when she was in The Rocketeer. I don't know. Maybe because I just wanted to fly in and rescue her. I don't know. But what would you say it that makes practical more effective than CGI, practical effects?
Well, as you were saying before, a lot of times CGI will take you out of the experience altogether, whereas with a practical effect, it keeps you right in there. And there's just something that's a little bit more genuine about practical effects. You can almost tell every time it's CGI. I don't know exactly what it is, but with practical effects, it keeps you in the experience altogether. Whereas with CGI, it just takes you right out. That's what I think. You know, as far as practical effects go, you know, you can go back to the beginning of film for, you know, when they started using them, and it's just kind of a tried and true way of doing things, whereas CGI is kind of experimental and not really easy to pin down, because sometimes it's hit or miss, whereas practical effects, for the most part, seem to work 90% of the time. I would say that's about all I can say about that. I just love practical effects. It's the gooiness, it's the latex, and it's just more genuine. It comes off more genuine to me.
I'm going to lean towards what Steve Lambert said to me the other day. Steve Lambert was the stunt coordinator on Revenge of the Ninja and Ninja 3: The Domination. You name it, this guy is doubled for everybody, right? And what I asked him, what is the difference between action movies these days and action movies in the 80s? And he said straight away, CGI. He just does not. Obviously, CGI kind of undercuts a lot of stunt people, right? Because they don't really need them as much. Because you can just get Hugh Jackman in a harness and fly him around a blue screen, right? Yeah. But one thing that he mentioned that I thought was really interesting was happy accidents, right? Because if you're a stuntman and you're on the top of a car and the car is moving this way and you're moving that way, your body weight, everything, your fear, emotion, everything that you're putting into that actual movement is coming across as part of the performance. So if you've got let's say Chadwick Boseman dressed up as Black Panther and he's got a blue screen and he's got a cable waving him around, or maybe his stunt double, they are completely wrapped in cotton wool, right? They're wrapped in cotton wool to the sense they are completely safe. They don't have that they don't have to have that sort of
it's like a visceral, like a emotional, reaction, They
exactly.
They've been taken out of the moment themselves. So how could it not project onto the viewer?
Exactly. Yeah. And that was something that I didn't really think of before. And I also feel that way with in relation to CGI when it's coming to like visual effects, because remember when the Star Wars films came out, the prequels, and they had Ewan McGregor and what's his face, Liam Neeson walk around, and they were talking to Jar Jar Binks, right? And they did have an actor dressed as Jar Jar Binks walking around with this thing on his head to where their eye line is supposed to go for them to talk to him. But you just felt like it wasn't really there. Yeah, they were kind of. It seemed as if they were squinting. That they were really. They were concentrating too much to interact with this character. Whereas another film that does the exact same thing, does it way more better. Way better is Who Framed Roger Rabbit. We've got Bob Hoskins, and he's handcuffed to Roger Rabbit, right? Yeah. But you feel that he can see him. He is interacting with him. And I don't know if that's just to do with Bob Hoskins as an actor, but you actually get a feeling that he was interacting with this animated character, because that's what he is. Jar Jar Binks, Roger Rabbit, they're animated characters. And right, and that's what I hate about it. I just it just takes you out. There's the happy accident element is gone. Because everything is animated within an inch of its life. You've got, what is it called? They do this thing, animatics, right? Okay. Where if, for instance, we're making a Spider-Man movie and Spider-Man's going to swing from one building to the next, right? So we'll before we shoot the scene, we will do a CGI rendering of the scene, almost like a moving storyboard. Like you've got the storyboards, like a comic strip. But this is animated. This is fully animated. It doesn't look great. It's rough. But we're going to shoot this frame by frame exactly the way it is. So we've already planned it within an inch of its life. So there's no room for there's no happy accidents. Everything is mechanical. Yeah. Whereas, I'll give you another example. Sorry, I'm going on, right? But I'll shut up in a wee minute. I'll give you an example of the old ways, right? Gremlins, right? During the original script of Gremlins was that Gizmo was going to become a gremlin, right? Oh. and be from being a protagonist to becoming an antagonist. That was in the original screenplay that Chris Columbus had written, and it was going to be darker. It was going to be more of a sort of violent horror, right, than a comedy, right? And that was their plan. And during production, Steven Spielberg, who was the executive producer, went to Joe Dante, saw some of the rushes with Gizmo as a character, and he's like, right, this character can't die. We cannot kill this character.
Yeah.
Right? He has to survive and become a hero, right?
Yeah.
Because I just love him. He's adorable. And he saw the wee moment where he's like pretending to drive the car, right?
Yeah.
And Gizmo looks so adorable. So Joe Dante was like, okay, great. Now we've got to go and do all these other special effects for Gizmo surviving, more puppets and stuff. So they were really stressed out about it. But at the end of the day, they could still change it up, and it was all done practically. So in a sense, they had room to have more happy accidents with these puppets. And Jaws is another one. I know I'm going off again. Jaws is another one. The fact that the shark had broken down so many times, they had to remove it from the screen, and that's what makes Jaws so effective. Is you rarely see this shark, but you do feel its presence. And
gosh, that's a good point. It's a real good movie, man. I know so many folks are a fan of that. I haven't gotten a copy of that one. I saw it back in the day, not at the theaters, but I saw The Revenge in the theaters, and I wasn't really. I thought it was great though. As a kid, I was totally bought into that. Like
I saw Jaws 3D. Sorry.
No, it's fine. I really I've got to. That's one that's on my list of to collect. The Jaws films, and
right.
Really, I don't know how to go about it, because I'm not sure if it's okay to have those in your collection or not. But I mean, obviously the first couple ones are not too bad, but I don't know how people feel about Jaws 3. And is there a fourth one? Yeah, there wasn't
it? That is the Revenge. Revenge was the fourth one, where the shark is taking revenge.
Yeah,
it's a bit strange. Yeah. Wow. And sharks taking revenge.
I thought it at the time. I thought, I'll believe that. Shark revenge, sure.
I'm just going to go back into the comments here. Everybody's clamoring for a Labyrinth watch party.
That's not a bad idea, man.
I know, absolutely. I would certainly go for that. And B-movie badness, the lady has taste, right? The Rocketeer is a very underrated film.
Oh, absolutely. I love The Rocketeer.
Absolutely. I'll tell you something interesting now. When the pandemic started and everybody was like, you've got to wash your hands, you've got to do it for this amount of time, right? Because in this country, it was like Boris Johnson was like, oh, we've got to sing God Save the Queen while we're washing our hands, like that, right? He would just say stuff like that, and he's an idiot, right? And yeah, I mean, I'm not going to get sued for that. The whole country feels that way, right? Yeah. Anyway, but what I did when I was washing my hands was the Rocketeer theme. That was my tune. I don't know. It just made me feel heroic. I'm doing something to stop the spread of contamination. This disease, and it got me through mentally. Weirdly. What else we got here? I would love to learn. All right. Sophie says she'd love to learn special effects makeup, and she's dabbled with it when you were the Joker. Okay.
Oh, what?
You are the Joker.
The greatest place you can go now to learn special effects makeup would be Tom Savini's school. I think it's in Pittsburgh. It's in Pennsylvania, I believe.
She lives in Essex, which is not too far outside of London, so it's a bit of a trek.
Maybe a branch out there. I have no idea. I would hope, at least. But he's got his own school, and it's pretty awesome. I've seen like tours through it. Kind of amazing place.
Mr. Dan, he's coming out with some belters actually. How about Greystoke, The Legend of Tarzan? Apparently the crew couldn't tell the difference between the chimpanzee suits and the real chimpanzees. Yeah, that was an amazing. Rick Baker. Rick Baker seems to be the gorilla guy. And he, funnily enough, he played King Kong in the suit in the 1976 version, the Dino De Laurentiis one.
Okay.
Yeah, what's it? Yeah, and that was him that was behind a lot of that. Yeah, the apes in that were just amazing. When I was a kid watching, I haven't seen Greystoke in a long time, but I didn't think they were. I thought they were real, right?
I had no idea. I remember seeing Greystoke back in the day, and that was a pretty cool movie. Gosh, I didn't realize that they were using. I thought they were all real apes to me, or real. Was it? He said chimpanzees.
Yeah, it's chimpanzees and gorillas as well. And Sophie's saying, what about bed knobs and broomsticks? Love the mixture of animation and live action. Bobbing along on the bottom of the beautiful briny sea. Evening, folks. Hi, Retrohawk. Evening Retro, excellent. Curly Girl says she loved Jaws 3D when she was a kid. Well, I've got a story for you, Curly Girl. When I went to see it with my family and I fell asleep. Right, I fell asleep during Jaws 3D in the cinema, and I think I only saw like about 10, 15 minutes of it. And I've seen it since, and all I remember about it is it's set in like a SeaWorld. Lou Gossett Jr. is in it, and they've got Manimal. Simon McCorkindale is in it. He gets eaten by a shark. That's all I remember about it. But yeah, it's pretty terrible. There's a part where the shark explodes, and the effect of it, because it's meant to be 3D. In 1983, there was a couple of 3D releases. Nightmare on Elm Street, no, not Nightmare. Friday the 13th Part 3D, and Amityville 3D
was 3D.
Yeah, that was a bit of an oddity later on. But in 1983, for some reason they were trying to bring back that two-color 3D, and Jaws 3D was the one I got to see. Well, I didn't get to see it; I fell asleep, and I know. But there's a terrible effect where it explodes, and it's just horrendous. And there's a part where the shark comes through a window, and it's hideous. It is so bad. Definitely one for B-movie badness, to be honest. It's definitely got her. It definitely should be on her list, to be honest, to rip into off the bit. Oh, sorry, Sophie. Sorry you're not feeling too well. Hope you feel better soon. Okay, take care. Let me go jump into my questions that I've got. I've got so many questions. What CGI effect have you been most impressed by, if any, Wes?
Well, there was something to be said for Spider-Man. People are going to hate me for saying this, but I really liked some of the CGI in Spider-Man 3.
Yeah.
Sandman. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
How he kind of comes out of the sand, and just, he's kind of falling apart and finding himself. I thought that was really cool.
But I agree that it was that scene where he transforms into. I remember seeing it in a video game shop, because I saw it in a crummy pirate at first, but then I was in a video game shop and it was one of the first movies that I seen on a DVD, a Blu-ray display. It might have been HD DVD, the rival one, and it just looked great when he was transforming into Sandman. When you saw like the grains of sand. That was just gorgeous. No, I agree with you. Even though it was probably one of the worst, the movie as a.
That's what I was saying. I knew I was going to get hell for that, but the CGI is pretty good. The
CGI was awesome.
Yeah,
I've given you all the moderators. So if you want to drop your links or anything like that, feel free, right? And I won't get flagged for it. But yeah, that was really impressive. Even the what was it, the Venom symbiote stuff?
Yeah,
and it was just a terrible movie with the terrible dancing part.
Jam packed with too many villains, you know. I mean, the storyline wasn't the greatest, but I don't know. That movie gets a lot of hate, and I kind of don't mind it. You know, but it's probably more of a nostalgia thing. That my son and I used to go see the Spider-Man movies in the theaters, so that was kind of fun. You know, that's why I remember it fondly, at least. But gosh,
It was always a tradition that me and my brother would go and see the Batman movies from I think from Batman Returns onwards, because he was too young to see the first one. And
okay.
I remember the day we went to see Batman and Robin, because that was one of the first movies where the internet had sort of spoiled films, where because they had that website Ain't It Cool News, where they got to see test screenings of films. They snuck into test screenings and found out the films were terrible and reported it onto the internet, so everybody knew beforehand that the movie stank. And I went to see Batman and Robin the day it came out, right? And the cinema was empty.
Oh my gosh.
It was absolutely empty. And I'm like, wait a minute, this is a Batman movie. This is its opening day here. What's going on? And then 10 minutes in, I'm like, oh, right, now I get it.
Yeah, that movie is something else, man. I don't know. That's another one that's just jam-packed with villains, and I don't know the point of it exactly. I mean, it was so I don't know. It seemed almost wooden and mechanical in itself.
You know what? I watched that a few years ago. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. Enjoyed it just because I knew it was going to be absolutely pants, and I laughed at it. I enjoyed it as a kind of sick comedy. Right? Hi, Karen. Hi, how you doing? Thanks for showing up.
I don't know if I'm supposed to too bad.
Oh, you're always on form, Wes. Brilliant. And your videos lately have just been absolutely hilarious. Do you know that?
Well, thank you. I'm trying,
no,
man.
seriously.
Seriously,
it brightens my day to when I get it in my notification. I go, oh, this is going to be interesting. Even you're just opening a box of DVDs, you make it just so much fun, right? There was one in particular where you were saying, and your timing was spot on, right? Where it was just, and sometimes you don't even get the DVD because you've gone on about the packaging so much. Oh, it's a lovely slipcase cover and all that. And sometimes you don't even get the DVD. It's like, what is the point?
I'm not kidding. I swear to God, one time, just in the last month or two, I got a Vestron home video or Vestron collector's edition of, gosh, it's Spine number 13 Gothic, and there was no Blu-ray in there. I couldn't believe it. I was like, I was searching all over for the slipcover, and it was I had gotten an edition without a slipcover. The first one that came with a slipcover had no DVD inside of it. It was wrapped and everything. There was just nothing on the inside. Could you
complain? Could you get it?
The only thing that I could do was send it back. There was nothing I could do. It was an Amazon purchase.
All right. Gothic, was that the Ken Russell one from the 80s?
Yes.
All right. I've still never seen that. I remember seeing the video.
That's a good one. It's not the video, but the movie, at least.
Always kind of struck me as being a bit raunchy, a bit naughty.
Yeah.
What was it? I don't know.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's that Marquis de Sade appearance.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Slightly. Not obviously not himself, but I mean he's there's a character in there that's the Marquis de Sade.
Right. The Marquis de Sade, the only person that makes a shit-eating grin and takes it literally. Right? Right. Oh, this is an interesting question, and I was going to I think I dropped this to Karen the other night, but I've kept it. Is how do you feel when you use when they use dead actors in films with CGI, such as Peter Cushing in Star Wars Rogue One, for example?
Wow, it really depends on the situation, I'd say, because like with like The Crow, when they originally, when Brandon Lee was killed during the filming of that, and they had to kind of resurrect him using the CGI and whatnot, or at least layering his face over a double's face. When it's necessary, I don't have as much of a problem with it, but in the case of well, it wasn't as unbelievable in Rogue One as it could have been. I didn't even really put much thought into it. I just thought it was the actor, not the obviously I knew Peter Cushing had passed on, but I just thought it was an alternate actor. I didn't realize that they were using CGI to project that face onto the actor. I had no idea. It's a different story when it's absolutely necessary to complete a film, but when they just kind of throw it in there unnecessarily, that doesn't make any sense to me. I don't really like that. I mean, I guess you had to have it as far as like Grand Moff Tarkin. If he had to be in the movie, then they did right by it, I guess. But unnecessary use of that stuff is what really kind of pisses me off. I don't really like that. In the cases where it's necessary, that's it's excusable, especially in the case of The Crow. What else were they going to do?
No, exactly.
They couldn't scrap.
I mean, the movie was close to being scrapped. The Crow, it came close, and of all people, one of the people that actually saved The Crow, believe it or not, was Harvey Weinstein. Right? Really? Yeah, I know. I know. Because the film was incomplete, and a lot of the stuff they did with a stuntman. The guy that directed John Wick was Brandon Lee's stunt double for the film, and he did a lot of the sort of like the scene where he's on the roof playing the guitar and all that kind of stuff. That was sort of put there to pad it out a bit, because there was all these scenes where he met this sort of skull entity character that was to be played by, he was already cast in the film, Michael Berryman from House of Ice.
Oh yeah.
If you watch the Cursed, I love the Cursed films on Shudder. The one about that, it's a mix. Yeah. The series itself is a bit of a mixed bag, but the one on The Crow is brilliant. It really went into the what actually happened with the accident and how that came about. And also Michael Berryman was interviewed about his scenes being cut out of the movie because he was supposed to interact with Brandon Lee as a character. He was meant to be a sort of guide into the sort of underworld, maybe a bit more there to drive the plot with the mysticism behind The Crow and how that works. And he's a character from the comic strip as well. But I, to be honest with you, I saw Rogue One in the cinema. I thought it was really impressive. I liked the movie, but I was horrified by Peter Cushing, to be honest. Really? I know that his family, his estates probably said okay. They probably would have been fine with it for that to happen, right? They can't just use his likeness without their permission. But yeah. I was disgusted actually, because the guy's been dead since 1994, right? And I just felt like, well, you can
unnecessary.
Yeah, you've already recast Obi-Wan Kenobi with Ewan McGregor. Right. I think we can forgive Grand Moff Tarkin, who was hardly, he was hardly, a major character in the Star Wars franchise.
Yes.
Why are you doing this?
No need for that.
Do you know what I personally think? I mean, this is what I personally think that they are doing. I think that they're testing people's taste barometer. Yeah. Because it's like, oh, you let us away with Peter Cushing. Will you let us away with Bruce Lee? Will you let us away with Humphrey Bogart, Marilyn Monroe, Elvis Presley? We could dig up all these people and bring them all back. You want Michael Jackson in a movie? Here you go. I think that they're testing our
commercial. Well, they do a lot of Humphrey Bogart, Marilyn Monroe in commercials, but in actual motion pictures, that's a stretch.
Yeah, but when they do it in commercials, they do it in a sort of dead men don't wear plaid kind of way. where they've just taken a bit from one of their movies and just sort of cut it with somebody at the bar going, "Yeah, I love Heineken," right? Right. What do you think, Marlon? Oh, it's great. Right. Did you ever? I don't know if you got it over. There was a car commercial in this country, probably in the States as well, but it had Audrey Hepburn, and it was like I don't know. She looked like Audrey Hepburn, but she looked almost kind of like a kind of creepy CGI Audrey Hepburn.
Interesting. I had no idea.
Yeah, I can't remember. It was meant to be like Roman Holiday, Audrey Hepburn, but yeah, give me nightmares that. But yeah, I'm against personally against digging up, unless, like you say, with The Crow, we need to, it's part of the completion fund of the movie.
Exactly. That's the only time that it's really even excusable. I do not like that whatsoever when it comes to, I mean, I suppose they had to do it with Princess Leia and whatnot, but
no, they didn't. They should have just gave the character a funeral.
Yes.
They should have gave the character a send-off that she deserved, right? No, they've got to have her looking dead-eyed and like, no, that was a disservice to that woman. I'm sorry. I hated that last one. It was an abomination of cinema. Sorry. But it was Hi Sweet Fingers, give us a thumbs up. Also, but that's just my opinion, right? That's just my humble opinion about Star Wars. I watched the
whole thing for me is the Darth Vader scene. I mean, I didn't really like the movie all that much up until that point.
Oh, and
that just made me come unglued. I was like, that was the coolest thing.
Yeah. It's like Darth Vader's become Shaft all of a sudden, isn't he? He just
like that back in the day. He was so, he would lumber around like just a big oaf, and they gave him so much more pizzazz in Rogue One.
Yeah.
It was
just any biker bar and just started a rammy with every one of them. Who spilled my beer?
Yeah. Yeah, it was personal at that point, Dear Lord.
Yeah. I think Vivi, when we got a DVD of it, she must have watched that sequence over and over. She's like, look at the way he takes them on, it's like brilliant.
Everything about that part is perfect. It's on my badassery list of it's mainly music that's on that list, but it's a playlist of all the different stuff that I would consider badass or whatever. And boy, that's like
Mr. Dan's got a point about face swapping here. At the end of Sleepaway Camp, they put Felissa Rose's face on a male body without CGI. I have not seen Sleepaway Camp. Can you elaborate on that one?
Oh, well, gosh, if it's about
it's a slasher, isn't it?
It is a slasher. It's kind of like almost Friday the 13th style in a way. There is a brother and sister that are going away to a camp, and part of the sorry, I'm getting phone calls right now. It's just throwing me for a loop.
Do you know about this face on a male body?
Yes. I don't know how exactly they did it. It must have just had to have been they blacked out or blotted out the person's face and as far as the in-camera effect, or blue screened it or whatever, or put some sort of sack or something over the person's head. But basically it's, and spoilers are ahead, because I'm going to have to spoil the movie slightly if you haven't seen.
Well, Carly Garrow says it was a mask. It was a mask.
It was a mask. Indeed. Yep. Well, I don't know. Yep. I
smoking.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Oh boy. Yeah. Well, at least it saves me from having to spoil the movie. But it's basically, yeah. If you haven't seen that, man. Spoil it. What's that?
Is it like Austin Powers? He's a man.
Yeah.
Right. See, what's the one that's very similar to that? If it was a mask in this movie, is The Thing, right? Where we discussed that before with the part where he's doing the heart massage on the character with the defibrillator, and then his hands get bit off.
Yeah,
right.
It was actually a person without arms, someone that an amputee or someone that didn't have arms.
With a mask of the Doctor character over his face. Because if you notice, if you watch it very carefully, his feet when he's sort of going and moving back, his face does not move. But it's only for like a few seconds, right? Because the editing is just it's just as sweet as anything in that sequence, right? But yeah, that's a mask over an amputee for that sequence. Just, I mean,
well,
honestly,
that was that's a good scene. Definitely bought it entirely, hook, line, and sinker. I mean, got to admit that was a hell of a scene. But I thought that it was I didn't realize that it was that they showed the face. I thought that was just for that part where his hands are down there inside the chest cavity.
No, because you see it in one shot where the arms are up here, right?
Okay.
And he's screaming and it's not that whole like in the hand with Michael Caine where his hand is chopped off and he's clearly got this ginormous long stump. Right, he's got one arm way longer than the other for some reason, just so we can put this effect over his fist. Right, so obviously, no, but Rob Bottin has went to the effort here with John Carpenter to make sure that this guy's arms are actually shorter here once they've been bitten off, right? Because they're not insulting the audience's intelligence, because that's really what it is, right? We 24 frames per second. We're going to see everything that they do in that shot. Got to make sure that you're not insulting your audience. And the Thing is that movie that just totally does not do that. Same with Werewolf in London.
That's the hands down one of my favorite transformation scenes of all time. I love that one. I don't know what it is. It seems real. Because in all reality, it kind of was, made out to be real. I mean, obviously, it was, just latex and effects, but it seems so real. You don't like American Werewolf in Paris. I can't imagine that the transformation scenes in that one are anywhere near, the level that first.
Just completely forgettable. But the I think with American Werewolf in London, what it had 10 years of preparation, because John Landis wrote that screenplay in like 69, 70, right?
Really?
Before he'd actually directed a film. Yeah, and he met Rick Baker in the early 70s. That he actually worked on his first film, Schlock, and it's like a gorilla goes nuts. It's not a very good movie. I've seen it before. I used to have it on cassette, and it's like a really kind of not a very good comedy. But Rick Baker met him he worked on that film, and they'd been planning it. They'd been planning this film. He said the screenplay, he said he wrote this screenplay, but he also wanted to have this transformation scene that you'd never seen before, because a lot of the old Universal horror films, it was all smoke and mirrors. They would use dissolves to transform Dr. Jekyll into Mr. Hyde, things like that. He wanted it to be brightly lit, right? We're not hiding anything. So that was years of preparation. And when it came down to when they finally got this movie greenlit, because it wasn't that it was greenlit, because it was like a calling card for John Landis. He would give this script to different studios, and they would love the script, right? It was almost like his way of getting work in other things, because they would love this screenplay, but they would never have the guts to make it. And then eventually it got made in the early 80s. And that was it. They just changed the future of special effects right there.
Yeah, they sure did. I mean, when it comes down to it, wasn't there some sort of like Rick Baker did the American Werewolf in London effects, and was it Rob Bottin that went over to The Howling almost simultaneously? Yeah.
And apparently this, I'm not entirely sure of this. I read this a long time ago, and it may be just rumor that they fell out over it. They probably didn't, right? Hollywood stories are always full of these sort of makeups and breakups, right? But apparently because the Howling was done in a very sort of dimly lit scenario, right?
Yeah.
Where the transformation scenes are quite similar. The whole mouth stretching things and bones cracking and all that kind of thing. They are quite similar, but I think Rick Baker kept some of his best secrets for the John Landis one, because, like I said, him and John Landis had been planning this film for a long, long time. So he didn't give all of his best tricks over to Rob Bottin.
Yeah.
And so when he did, I think The Howling did come out first. If I may be wrong, but The Howling didn't blow people away like Werewolf in London did, effects-wise. It's a great movie, but
it's obvious too. They're definitely. I believe the superior product is American Werewolf in London for sure. Not that The Howling wasn't all that bad, but American Werewolf in London was given that award for a reason. It was that an Oscar?
Yeah, if the very first visual effects makeup Oscar went to Rick Baker for Werewolf in London. But The Howling, I mean, if you excuse the pun, they're two different beasts, if you ask me. I mean, they're both werewolf movies, right? But they've got I think they've both got a different angle on it, right? I think The Howling, they've both got elements of humor, weirdly, but they're different. I wouldn't want to change either of them. I think they're both classics. But
The Howling kind of has like a grindhouse feel to it, whereas American Werewolf in London seems like, I don't know, it seems like a all-around legitimate picture, Nothing wrong with The Howling, don't get me wrong, but it kind of has that dirty feel to it, whereas American Werewolf in London just comes off as a story in itself. I don't know if I'm really characterizing that right, but that's just how it feels to me. There's something kind of low down and dirty about The Howling, I don't know if it's the killer at the beginning when he's kind of getting close to Dee Wallace. I'm not sure.
Yeah, there's a certain sleazy element to it, and I do understand that there's a sexual assault scene, like on a film that she's investigating.
Yes,
right?
Yeah, it's like an border. Or something.
And there's an interesting thing in this country when The Howling got released on DVD, right, in the early 2000s. There was a DVD extra where they showed more of that sequence, like some of the B-roll. That sequence and it had to be cut out of the DVD in this country.
Really?
Because it was the Region 2 release of The Howling had to have one of its DVD extras removed because it was too graphic. So the film was that early 80s period was a sleazier period, right? A lot more exploitation films were really sleazy, and I think The Howling was kind of reaching for that a bit more than Werewolf in London. But Mr. Dan says The Howling went for those bubbling effects that were used often back then. Yeah, absolutely. And Karen's saying that I think the soundtrack on American Werewolf in London elevated it. Yeah, just all the brilliant versions of Blue Moon and Moondance and stuff like that, right? That was, you could tell they'd really planned that.
Have the word moon in them at some point.
Every song
soundtrack.
And I love in the transformation sequence itself, they use a Sam Cooke version of Blue Moon, and it's so soulful, but I think it mixes in with the pain that he's going through, and that's the thing that's kind of key to it as well, is that David Naughton's performance, he's in pain, he's in agony when he transforms, and I don't think anybody had ever done that before, even in the Howling when I don't know the actor's name.
I don't know either. It looks like enjoying it or something. Or
he's the doctor from Voyager. He played the cowboy in Inner Space. Right, he's a great actor.
Actors when he's in a million films or whatever, but you can never put the name to him. Oh gosh. Almost to the tip of my tongue, but then it just.
When he transforms, he's not in agony. He's done it many times before. You get the impression that he's kind of he's used to that, right? Whereas in his case, we're frightened for him. as well as we're frightened of him.
Yeah.
That's a really mixed emotion that you get there. And the Sam Cooke song, which is kind of ironically placed because it's a beautiful soul version of Blue Moon, it just actually adds the sort of fear factor for me. Robert Picardo. There we are, Robert Picardo. Yes.
The things that you can do when you don't have your phone on streaming, you know, I can't really. What else was that guy in? He's been in so much stuff.
Yeah, he's a great actor, and that's such a varied sort of performance. That's what I'm saying. He's really creepy in The Howling, and then you look at him in Voyager. He's such a sweet character, you know. In comparison, The Howling was more dark, I think. Looking back, both are good films, but you're right, Terence, for different reasons. Yeah. I think there's another one from that year that I need to check out, Wolfen. I've still never seen that with Albert Finney.
Wolfen. You know, I've not seen that myself. They used to play it on WGN quite a bit, but I didn't even. I thought that was more of a thriller or something like that. I didn't realize that it was actually a werewolf movie, but I guess it is. I had no idea. I mean, I've never seen it, to be honest with you.
No, of course. Just let me see if I've got any other cool questions. What are some of your favorite practical effects and why, Icelord?
Well, I definitely am a big fan of latex and ooze and goo and all that. So some of my favorite, I would say Society is a real great movie, you know, the end in particular.
Of course.
Gets bored of great practical effects. As far as Brain Dead, we've already mentioned that one, but that's one of my favorites as far as practical effects go. Was it CGI? Examples of or practical?
No, practical. Gosh, you're the man for practical. You love your practical effects.
Oh yeah, that's really, it's all about practical effects for me. You know, I mean, I didn't have as much time to prepare for this as I normally would. I would have gone through my just history of all the different things that I had seen and gotten them fresh in my mind. But I definitely enjoyed a lot of the stuff from Lucio Fulci as well. I love some of the stuff he did, like in The Beyond, and
don't mention The Beyond. No. Spiders. There's a bit of spiders in that I don't like, but it gets so ridiculous. I mean, there's bits with real spiders, and there's bits where they're just like bits of pipe cleaners, right? You know, I know.
Like the eye scene, and is that The Beyond? I think, yeah. That's just crazy, you know. I thought that was fun.
No, if you're going to bring up Fulci, it's got to be zombie flesh eaters, or Zombie 2, as some call it, where the splinter in the eye.
That's it. Well, films in general are excellent practical effects in a lot of cases. However, sometimes you'll get that mix of where someone's neck gets sliced and it's just obviously someone, you know, put a line of blood or a line of corn syrup across the neck to make it look like it was slit, and it's just, you know, it goes from very poor to very good, you know. But I definitely gosh, right off the top, I would have to say I like the effects from the original Nightmare on Elm Street. Thought that was pretty cool how they did Johnny Depp's death scene. And
it's not the worst thing to happen on his bed, apparently.
No kidding. Good God, that was an effect only, but no.
Yeah, and that room got a lot of play. That revolving room that they used in the Nightmare on Elm Street, that appeared in so many things around about the same time. Breaking 2, Electric Boogaloo, the Dancing on the Ceiling video, Lionel Richie.
Was that the same thing?
Yeah, so many people borrowed that around about the same time. Everybody, there's a lot of in the stuff. There's a bit where he's on the bed and the stuff jumps at him. That's the same. Yeah. That's the revolving room from Nightmare on Elm Street. Yeah.
the thing I mentioned was The Stuff. I love that movie. That was a definite childhood throwback. The practical effects in that one are just out of this world. And from what I remember, or what I heard at least, apparently The Stuff smelled like just the most awful fish, like the most disintegrated, something like that. They had these like, what was it, like fish bones or something in the stuff itself, and it just made it smell outrageous. But gosh,
yeah, I need to watch that again. It's so silly. It's silly, but it's got a point to make. I like that. But the bit with Garrett Morris, but a lot of people haven't seen it, so
really,
it's just yeah.
That's terrible. You gotta watch The Stuff.
Hi, Cool K. Thank you for coming. And Ocean Chick says the Wolfen is a good one. I need to check it out. Yeah, absolutely. It's been on my list forever. It's one of those ones that's just been sitting there like, oh, I'm going to get round to that one of these days. Yeah. Nine knows what she's talking about. Stuff is so funny. Yeah. Chocolate Chip Charlie. That's the main the Garrett Morris's character in it. And that's not a spoiler. Yeah. But I didn't realise that he was based on a real guy. The famous Amos.
Oh,
yeah, the famous Amos. When Andy Kaufman gave his audience free milk and cookies one night, right? When he played Carnegie Hall, when he gave he took his audience away in buses. He said, "Oh, come on, we'll get free cookies." He just like, Andy Kaufman being as mad as he is, it was the famous Amos that gave him the free cookies, right? And apparently, because he was a big sort of cookie guy at the time, I don't know. And but as a favour for that, he got him a guest appearance on an episode of Taxi.
Huh?
Yeah, I know. And the Garrett Morris character was kind of like a wee sort of nod to this character, like a spin on it. Yeah, that's interesting. The Chocolate Chip Charlie. Sorry, go off on tangents.
Like some of my other favorite like practical effects go, man. I'd have to say. Maniac is a definite excellent great head explosion in that one. Got a great head explosion in Scanners. I know I'm kind of repeating myself from over the recent past, but love those movies as far as effects go.
Now Scanners, the simple, let's just shoot a dummy's head off, fill it through full of goo. Yeah.
I think for me, anything from gelatin to actual meat to just stuff that they found around the set from the crafts table, I think. Crazy.
Was it? Well, see, for me, right, it's a really disgusting one is Joe Pilato's death in Day of the Dead. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Right. Joker, right? Yeah. And I've got a really interesting story that I've told people this dozens of times, so they're going to be bored out their mind hearing this one again, right? But I met Joe Pilato many years ago. Went to a double bill here in Glasgow of Dawn of the Dead and Day of the Dead. Ken Foray was there as well. They did a Q&A between the films. So Dawn of the Dead came on, and I wasn't enjoying Dawn of the Dead because I'd seen it so many times, right?
Okay.
Right, just because I'd seen it that many times, I wasn't digging it as much, just because it felt like I was just watching wallpaper that I'm so used to. But Ken Foray came out, did a wee talk and a Q&A, and then Day of the Dead, and I absolutely loved seeing Day of the Dead on the big screen because that was kind of new to me because I hadn't seen it as much. And the gore scenes, see when he does get ripped apart, the audience were just like retching. It was like a whole universal at the same time. It was great.
What's that one? What is it? Day of the Dead or Dawn of the Dead, where the guy's head gets ripped off and his vocal cords kind of shriek along.
That's the one. Yeah. Day.
I thought so.
As his head's getting pulled off, he's screaming and his vocal cords stretch. It's just brutal. But so the Q&A came along and Joe Pilato came out and he asked everybody all these questions. They were all asking him all these boring questions. What was it like to work with George Romero? And he was like, yeah, it was great. So I just had the back of my mind this excellent question, right? And I asked him, watching you in that film getting ripped from limb, it's just horrible. How does your family feel about seeing that happen to you? And he stood there and froze, right? And he looked at me like, stuck for words. And he goes, you know something? No one's ever asked me that question, but I'm sure my ex-wife loves it. Yeah, his ex-wife must just love seeing that scene in the film. Yeah. But yeah, that is one of my all-time favourite gore scenes, just because it's so brutal. And I know that when they did it, they used real animal guts, because I think that's what they did for all the old zombie movies, is they would use animal guts. And apparently the refrigerator that they kept them in overnight, there was a power surge.
Oh.
So the animal guts had went off.
Oh,
right?
No.
And they still decide, because they're spending a lot of money on this, they've got all this sort of latex, what have you, to do his torso and all of that. And there was a TV show in the 90s called Clive Barker's A to Z of Horror. It used to be on British TV.
Okay.
And there was Z was for zombie. And they talked about this sequence. And apparently what had happened was that they shot the scene. They went and did it with the stinky, horrible off meat stuff. And they showed an outtake where the zombies are all pulling Captain Rhodes apart, and he's doing all this screaming, and the zombies actually stop, and they're like, "Oh, that's just awful." they just can't do the scene because of the smell of this stuff, right?
Oh God!
Brilliant. Sorry, off on one of my crazy tangents again.
Well, that brings a memory of not. I'm not saying that the movies are themselves that great, but I got to admit, some of the practical effects in the third August Underground movie are really amazing. I don't know exactly what it is. That third one in particular, there are just some very real practical effects, and that was kind of an underground, kind of low budget movie. But
what is August Underground? You've said this to me a couple of times.
Fred Vogel is the director and star of all three of those movies, and he's a former student and teacher at Tom Savini's school of special effects. And I think 2001 is when he came out with August Underground. I'm not saying it's a recommended movie because it's quite low down and dirty. It's kind of an offensive film. It's basically a snuff film. Kind of like the but it's not. There's not real people. A snuff film would mean real people are being killed here. Right. Not actually. It's marketed to be. It was he was stopped at the Canadian border, and they confiscated a number of his copies of August Underground because they thought it was a snuff film, just from apparently looking at it. And it's like the guinea pig movies. It's one of the first pseudo snuff films, other than like Scrapbook or some of those other like progenitors of pseudo snuff. He's so good at. I know it's a terrible genre to have any interest in, and but it's got some really interesting effects depending on the movie. But Fred was an awesome special effects artist, I got to admit. Got a shout out to all. It's very, very kind of believable. You believe that this is really someone being slaughtered right in front of your eyes. Oh yeah, it's frightening. I mean, he did it just to show people how terrible violence really was. I mean, at least that's what his story is. You just need to watch war footage. Look up the My Lai massacre from 1968 or 1968. Yeah. Look that up. That's it. That's all you need to know. That's just horrific. And you know something? Oliver Stone tried to get a My Lai massacre film off the ground just before the economy collapsed in 2008. And it was going to be Bruce Willis and Nicolas Cage. Nicolas Cage and Bruce Willis were signed up to do this film called Pinkville, which was about the My Lai massacre. Because Oliver Stone, he made a lot of films about the Vietnam War 3, in fact, right? And he was going to go back and do another one, which was about that, but it lost its funding because of the financial meltdown. And but yeah, that's a horrible, horrible story. It's a horrible story. And
I think it's an important story to remember, because it's just absolute brutality at its worst. And sorry, off again. No. But yeah, no, I those I've always not been interested, but I've watched Curly Girl talk about the guinea pig films, and they all seem to be varied. Where you've got, what is it, a mermaid in a manhole?
Yeah.
Right. Is there one called Badger in a Blender? I don't know. You know,
I'm working on that one right now. It's going to be in the American Guinea Pig series. No, I don't know. Just joking.
But I remember when the whole Charlie Sheen, because I saw a documentary a few years ago. It wasn't really a documentary. It was a kind of sort of paparazzi piece of crap on TV about Charlie Sheen. And they brought up that whole guinea pig scenario, that just to show how crazy he was, or whatever. They believed this movie was real. And I think they showed a clip from it. And it was just this Japanese woman, like, and she was in like bits on this table. I don't know. It was just like guts and blood everywhere. You know, it didn't really strike me as a film that had a plot. It was just like, let's watch this woman being disemboweled for no reason.
And have a plot. Exactly. I'm not sure how he was in movies and didn't realize that was just special effects, because Flowers of Flesh and Blood, or Flower of Flesh and Blood, it's only special effects. I mean, there is no real story. I mean, there's a guy dressed up like a samurai, and he's kidnapped a woman and he's filled her with drugs to take away her pain, I guess, so that way he can disembowel and dismember her. But I mean, there's a little bit of a narration, but there's no story whatsoever. It's just, he's just kind of going through the motions of taking apart a body. And I don't know how that fooled Charlie Sheen, to be honest with you. It doesn't make sense.
Drugs.
I can't figure it out.
Drugs. I mean, he probably thought Dumbo was a documentary. You know what I mean? No. That scene just about anything, but right, never mind. But it's interesting that is it Japanese, that film, The Flowers of?
So
yeah, because I heard somewhere that the whole cannibal films of the late 70s, which started with Man of Deep River and went all the way up until like Cannibal Ferox, right?
Yeah.
Those were made for the Japanese market. That the Italians that made those films, they were targeting the Japanese market with those movies, because the Japanese had just such a love for really extreme content.
Okay.
And to the point that Star Wars, right, was outgrossed Star Wars was outgrossed in the Japanese box office by Faces of Death. That's not a lie. Faces of Death grossed more money at the Japanese box office than Star Wars did.
Wow. And Faces of Death was terrible, man. I mean, it's not bad for the time, but like, as far as like, it's so unreal. I mean, there's maybe a tenth of it is somewhat realistic or actual footage, but there's nothing about it that's quite real, but apparently the Gorehounds seemed to really love that movie back in the day. I remember the cover of that scaring the hell out of me at the VHS shop.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was just something about the death, like a doctor surgeon holding a scalpel out, scared the hell out of me. With the
one on the UK was different. It was the guy in the electric chair with the plasters over his eyes, right? But I still haven't watched that. The whole film's on YouTube, right? I mean, it was banned in this country for 30 years, right? Same with Necromantic was never allowed to even like. They didn't. The thing is with Necromantic is they didn't even give it to the censor in this country. They knew. I mean, the fact that this country wouldn't even allow Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 to come out, so they knew that it would be a waste of money to submit it, because you have to pay to have your film censored. No, it's true. You do.
It's it all, man.
No, if you.
I mean, I do, but I don't want to. I don't want to have to, but I mean, geez, the stuff that you have to go through to get a film made anymore, or at all, and over the entire history of movies. I mean, dear God, I can't imagine how it must be with like for people like John Waters or you know, some of these like gore directors and whatnot, how would they have dealt with it, you know? I can't imagine.
Yeah, well, I mean, you look at the old days where you've got like William Castle, right? I know these movies are hokey, where you had the Tingler, right? The Tingler's a good movie, actually. I love the Tingler,
I'm
right?
familiar with it.
Where the film was like almost like a traveling circus, right? That you take the film, that film with John Goodman, Matinee, that kind of depicts that.
Okay.
That character's kind of based loosely on William Castle, where you're traveling, you're taking the film around different states, different towns. You're putting on a bit of a show,
Sure.
right? Where you
Yeah.
get the nurses there to make sure anybody's, oh, this film's so terrifying. This nurse will be there to care for you. You know, you get the fake religious right to come out and go, oh, this film's disgusting, right?
Right.
You need to do, you know, it's just all fakery just to get people in the cinema, right?
Yeah.
I think
Well, it's like Silent Night, Deadly Night. From what I understand, wasn't. Gosh, oh, what's the guy's name? He was protesting along with the with all the parents and whatnot to get that
Billy
movie.
Graham.
Was it
Billy Graham? I don't know. He was.
I think his
He
name
said
is
that there was
Rourke. I can't remember his first name. Is it Mickey Rourke?
Mickey
Rourke.
Rourke, the actor.
Yeah, he originally came out against Silent Night, Deadly Night, the first one, but after a number of years, he ends up being the Santa Claus in one of the sequels, like part 4 or 5.
Yeah, never mind Wild Orchid 2 or some crap that he's done, you know. You know, Harley Davidson and the Marlboro Man. Yes, kids, smoke cigarettes and ride motorcycles, right? I mean, that's just awful, isn't it?
Oh boy.
Hi, Lady Shasha. Nice to see you. Thanks for showing up. But yeah, it's just absolutely stupid, isn't it? I mean,
it kind
of. I miss that old showmanship. I miss that not knowing what you're going to get. Like for instance, the Sadness is a great example, or that film X that just came out. They're recent horror releases. There's so much talk about them. You know, that by the time I see it, I'm setting myself up for disappointment every time.
Yeah. I wasn't that impressed with X. I thought it was good for whatever it was, and some of the effects were pretty good, but I wasn't that impressed with the movie. I mean, I bought it on Blu-ray, but I mean, so I keep throwing money at it, but nonetheless.
Yeah, but I mean, there's some real, I mean, stuff on your shelf. I mean, you know, what's this director? What's the guy that's always making films with this Misty Monday? I don't know who the director is, but
yeah, William Hellfire.
William Hellfire.
Bill Hellfire. Yeah, he's a cool. I mean, he found my 31 Days of Horror review of his I Was a Teenage Strangler, and he put it on his Facebook as something like, you know, oh guys, I've finally made it to the 31 Days of Horror. I was like, oh man, I'm so nothing compared to Bill Hellfire, man. But he talks up my video, and then all of a sudden we were talking on Facebook, and I was like, oh man, I want to do some more of your movies, and he gave me suggestions for 31 Days. It was pretty great, you know. I doing a director spotlight about him, and because I was trying to do like Michael Todd Schneider, who's also an associate of Fred Vogel. I was always trying to do kind of smaller directors or directors that haven't really hit the mainstream just yet, you know,
right?
Get them out there and whatnot. And Bill Hellfire has been around for so long, but you know, he's still kind of underground, and he does a lot of amateur work, but he's definitely got an eye for gore and special effects. He's definitely a big fan of horror in general. and he just does a great job, you know. But yeah, he has some really crazy titles, I got to admit.
Right.
Yeah, I just went out one day. I was like, screw it, I'm gonna buy a whole bunch of these, you know, just because I was kind of gearing up for the director spotlight, and I went a little overboard with some of the titles that I got. As that second video has a lot of them on DVD, like oh God, I don't even want to say some of the names of those, but
But it struck me as just like, here's a bunch of teenage boys and they're just coming up with horror movie names, right?
right,
Right?
yeah,
They've just had one too many doobies, and they're just like, right, slaughtered Nazi hairdresser,
yeah,
right? Something like that, right?
yeah,
It's just nuts to me. But yeah, going back to Faces of Death, right?
yeah.
The reason I became aware of this was that when it was first released on DVD after being banned for a long time, Cannibal Apocalypse. Have you seen that?
Oh
With
yeah,
John Saxon,
that's a
and that's a
Giovanni
good one, isn't it?
Lombardo Radici is in that too. He
Yeah,
some of the other early Fulci films, and he's pretty good. That's a great
yeah.
movie. Actually.
I thought that was going to be really nasty. It's really not. It's quite tame in comparison to the Ferox and Holocaust and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
People keep their genitalia intact in this one, but also, right?
It's true.
And it's that's such an exciting movie. But I watched it. It came with all these DVD extras. This was the first time that it was released, and it came out round about my birthday, so I got it as a birthday gift, and I was so pleased. And they had all this stuff about it, and that was where I found out about the Japanese market. The reason this movie was made was for the Japanese market. That all these Italian nasty movies were aiming straight for the Japanese, and it's always kind of got me curious as to why they were like that. You know, and I don't know. I'm reaching here, right? But
Okay.
it's hard for me to identify with the Japanese having this appetite. Now we're talking; these movies are blockbusters now, right? They're beating Star Wars at the box office in the late 70s, early 80s, right? That's true.
Yeah.
And
No.
in Japan, and I think it's hard to identify with it because no one's ever dropped an atomic bomb on me.
Yeah.
Never mind two.
Well, that could have really brought them quite a bit further than any of us can imagine. You know, I don't know. I don't know how that goes, but they've kind of always had a little bit of an out there taste. You know, but gosh, who's to can't really account for, you know, prior to World War II exactly what their tastes were, but that may be it. You know, it could be. It could have turned them into major, you know, major cinema. You know, they could have been advanced far beyond our abilities as far as understanding film and what they like, because they do like some wild stuff out there. I mean, their
Yeah, they make
television
some.
is far racier than ours in America. I mean, some of their challenge shows are just amazing.
Is that a country you'd like to visit?
Wow. I would love to go out to Japan one day myself. I would definitely love to go out there.
Same.
I haven't really given too much thought of where to travel if I had a passport, but I would
You don't have a passport?
no, not for years. I visited the United Kingdom back in the day when I was around 13 with my
Where'd you
dad.
go?
We flew directly into London and kind of toured around the main part of England there. But we didn't get as far south as maybe Brighton, or we went to Bath and Windsor, but it's been so long I can't recall. It's been a good nearly 30 years now. But we definitely hit a lot of the big sites in London, and you know, we saw Piccadilly Circus and Buckingham Palace and whatnot, or at least from the outside. We just kind of took the the average tour. It was so long ago, I can't remember. I remember I purchased some materials for cartoon drawing. I was really into. I wanted to become a cartoon artist at the time, but I have no artistic talent whatsoever. So I don't know where my head was at exactly. But
your daughter seems to, though. The picture on Instagram that your daughter drew. That's really nice.
Yeah, she took it to a whole other level. I was never even close to being able to draw like she does. It's amazing. I appreciate it.
She makes you look like a sort of peaceful folk singer, right? It's like there's John Denver, right?
Yeah. That's true.
Mr. Dan says, my daughter visited Japan. She brought me an Ultraman figure. Mission accomplished. Awesome. Yeah, I'd just love to go. It just looks so clean and interesting, and it's just a culture. I'm fascinated by different cultures all over the world. I believe that these things should be preserved and protected, not interfered with. Like I live in this city that's full of bigots, right? And people are just like, oh, I don't understand you. They don't want to understand you. I speak to 80 people on the phone a day, right? Yeah. And I get so many bigots that are just so small-minded. They just say some racist stuff and all the time, and it breaks my heart. Honestly, it really drags me down sometimes.
I can't imagine that into a phone call. You know, I mean, how is it that you reveal yourself as a bigot over, like customer service phone call or something like that? You know.
Well, you hear the classic line, "I'm not racist, but."
Right.
Well, then it starts with that. Then, well, it's like I don't like watching violence on screen, but well, yeah, you do, right? Sure. Come on, you do. We're all gonna put the white hoods on now, aren't we? Right? Let's do it. Yeah, it's horrible. It can be really horrible sometimes. Majority of people are lovely, but when you get these small-minded, dot-brained knuckle draggers, it really makes you. It just makes you fearful for the future, sure. Right? Because this is something that should have died out a long, long time ago, but it's still lingering like a bad smell, right? Yeah. And you just want to get the spray out and go get away, you annoying, irritating fly, because that's what it is. Anyway, let me get back into the questions, right? It was good going off topic there, though. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah,
but. What I was going to say is, why do you think films that lean heavily into CGI are considered for cinematography awards? It's a toughie.
It's probably all that there is left. I mean, I don't know. There are some really good movies that were recently released that haven't gotten the attention they should have. Like I Saw the Devil. That's an amazing movie. There's a little bit of CGI in there, but it's a South Korean film, and it just has some really, really amazing scenes where there's the killer in that film attacks a couple of guys inside of a cab, and there's a mix of CGI and practical effects in there, but I would say that personally it's because that's all that there is left. I mean, there's they're only going to recognize people who do CGI. They're not going to get the special effects, the practical special effects, the attention that they deserve, because it's probably because they're bought and paid for. I mean, it's all a matter of as far as the Oscars go, it's a matter of campaigning, from what I hear, and it's very costly. Yeah. So you're not going to get a lot of the practical effects folks on board for Oscar nominations, and I'd imagine it has a lot to do with Hollywood culture. To be honest with you, that's what I would say.
Yeah. No, I think you're right on the money there, Wes. Mr. Dan said he's seen the Devil. It's great. When you mentioned that, I thought of that really terrible Shyamalama, M. Night Shyamalan one. Where they're all trapped in the lift.
The Devil.
Yeah. What was it? The guy's got like toast and jelly, and he like throws it up in the air, and it lands like jelly side down, and that's it. The devil's about. You know, that's how you know it's the devil, right? So all that time, I'd dropped a piece of toast. I didn't realize the devil was you know. I wish I'd have known.
I think that face up with the jelly and the toast would be like, oh no, the devil's around. Or I guess it's raining while it's sunny out.
But see, a film like The Sadness, right? Using that as an example, the cinematography in that was gorgeous. Now, seriously, it's a great looking movie for as absolutely brutal and disgusting that it is, right? And depraved that this movie is. It looked gorgeous, right? It was so well shot. But that's the thing, that will never get considered for a cinematography award, whereas Avatar, which is people in motion capture in a green screen. Yeah. Where is the cinematographer here, right?
Right.
Oh, he's up there. He's up there in the computer room. I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. To me, cinematography means photography,
right? Moving
image. I don't understand. Hi, Mary. Give us a thumb. Oh, you've done it. Well done. Thank you very much. And I wish someone could explain it to me, that how Avatar can be nominated, because it did. When I remember that Oscars, because I was so hyped for Catherine Bigelow, right, and she won it. Right, and she was the first. I think she was the first female director to win Best Director ever.
Really?
I know that. Barbara Streisand had been nominated before for Yentl many moons ago, but she never got it. But I think it was Yentl. But Catherine Bigelow, she won it that night, 2010, I think it was. I stayed up for it because in this country you have to stay up. Just like if you're going to watch Spirits and Screams, you have to stay up for it, right? That's the new Oscars for me, right? You know, it's WrestleMania. If you're going to watch WrestleMania, you have to stay up stupidly late here for it, right? So I did for that Oscars that year. The only last time I did it, I got stupidly drunk because Catherine Bigelow, she's going to win it. Right, I still haven't even seen The Hurt Locker that she won it for, but Near Dark, Point Break, yeah, she's a legend, right? And I love Zero Dark 30 as well. I think she's a brilliant director, and it was great to see her win. But I'm sitting there, she's up against Avatar. She's up against her ex-husband, James Cameron, for Avatar. Yeah, the same year, and cinematography. There's Avatar. I'm like watching it, Avatar, and then they actually show you like some of the you know the behind the scenes during the award ceremony. Where there's like a whole room full of green screen. There's Zoe Saldana with this big dots all over her. Like, cinematography. Are you sure? It's just always bothered me, Icelord, and also. I think I'm going to wrap it up with one last question, right? Because I'm killing you here. You probably need to get your.
And this is good. Shoot, man, shoot. I'm ready for
it. You sure? Okay. Well, this is going to be a fun one. What CGI moments were you most appalled by?
Most appalled by? Oh Lord, Transformers movies. I saw the first one or the second one in the theater, and oh man. It was unwatchable. I couldn't. I have bad eyesight to begin with, but when I look at the transformations of the Transformers in that film, it literally makes me sick. Like it's hard to watch. It's just too much. It's overkill for the eyes.
Yeah,
that one definitely hurt me. You know, I did not like that. I couldn't tell what I was looking at. It just looked like a hodgepodge of digital artifacts, you know, not very good.
Yeah, I remember Roger Ebert's review for the second one. I can't remember what the subtitle to it was. Transformers, you know, the migraine induction or something. But it was like. Roger Ebert said you could go into your kitchen, just get all the pots and pans and just smash them all together and you get the same effect, right? Well, I mean, I'm not going to criticize my partner, right? But she loves those movies. She gets me watched. She puts them on all the time.
Oh,
right?
well, I
She's
feel bad
loves.
when I bashed it. I didn't mean to.
Yeah, I've always hated them though. I've never liked her. You know, I've never been nice to her that way. Like, oh yeah, you know, the Pirates of the Caribbean as well. I mean, I like bits of them, but the Transformers are just unforgivable for me. Especially because I grew up in the '80s. I cried when
Good
Optimus Prime
cartoon.
died in that cartoon, right?
Oh
Even
yeah.
though, it was pure corporate cynicism that killed him, because they only killed him off so they could sell more toys. I didn't know that at the time, right? I was deeply horrified
Yeah,
and
I know.
traumatized. But she took me to see, she got me to go and see one of these movies. It was called Transformers The Last Night, right? And it's got Anthony Hopkins in it, right? And you know the funny thing? Anthony Hopkins is not phoning it in this film. He's clearly trying to impress his granddaughter or something by like reading this garbage. This script is garbage, but he's learned every word of it because that's the way he works as an actor. He learns the screenplay inside and out. He doesn't deviate. He's not.
That's,
He's not a method man.
he's got to have
Hopkins.
memory.
Yeah, so he remembers every Transformer in the toy box in that movie, right? And it's awful, right? But the
Oh,
worst thing about it, is that it was made for. I didn't see it in IMAX, but it was made for IMAX. This film, but whereas Christopher Nolan, when he does The Dark Knight or Inception, he will do one sequence that's IMAX, and the rest will be 35mm, right?
okay.
So, for instance, in The Dark Knight, there's a car chase that's IMAX, the rest is 35mm or something like that, right? So
Okay.
it's not jarring. So if you go to see it in IMAX, you're watching it 35mm, then the IMAX part starts, and then we go back to 35mm after that sequence.
Huh.
The way Michael Bay did it in this Transformers film is it jumps from 35mm to IMAX back to 35mm just randomly throughout the film. He's almost like pressing a button, going. I saw it in a 35mm version, right? I'm no way I was giving them IMAX money to see this movie, right? But it still had this. It would change frame. It would change width throughout the movie.
Oh no.
I'm not joking. And it wouldn't be just like, here's the big explosive Transformers beating the crap out of each other scene. This was just the moments where characters were talking, right, in a room, like, oh, what are we going to do with these bloody Transformers? And then it's doing this constantly, going from wide to super wide. What? It was. I honestly felt that Michael Bay was just sick of his audience, just wanted to absolutely troll them to hell. It was just horrible experience. Horrible experience.
I'm not a big fan of his stuff. I don't know what it is. I mean, I've heard of some of his earlier stuff, maybe, but recently he hasn't really released a lot of stuff that I'm a big fan of.
There's a new one, Ambulance, that had the dude from Candyman, Mateen the Third. As an ambulance driver or something. That was a new one, Ambulance, it's called. Not to be confused with the Larry Cohen one, but what would you call it? I'm so off put by him, and I was so grateful that he didn't direct Bad Boys 3. It was actually better that he wasn't directing it, even though he appeared in it strangely. But yeah, his earlier films like The Rock with Nicolas Cage and Bad Boys, the original Bad Boys, I love those films, and they're not as annoying. It's once you get into Armageddon territory, that's when Michael Bay started to show how really bad he was. I don't know what happened to him. And the early Meatloaf videos were cool as well.
Oh yeah. Gosh. Yeah.
But yeah, that doesn't. I mean, I'm 100% with you with Transformers. I mean, they are appalling to watch. The recent Bumblebee. If you do like Transformers, the recent Bumblebee one is okay. It's just a kind of remake of E.T., right?
Oh.
But with Bumblebee, and it's not headache inducing. It's actually quite nice and easy to watch. Right?
Okay.
That's what is this film. Is this film going to give me a horrible migraine? That's the question when I dip my toe into those films. And from the first 5 minutes of Bumblebee, I was like, oh, this is actually all right. Hey. But I'm trying to think what the absolute worst CGI that I've seen.
Yeah. What's your worst CGI moment, would you say?
I might have to go with The Rock when he was that big scorpion. Because that combined with the terrible hangover, because it was a stinking hangover. I promised my brother that I'd take him to see The Mermaid Returns, and I didn't want to let him down, and I'd been up getting hammered with my mates the whole night, and I think I must have had no sleep, and it was that, still drunk, still kind of. I mean, I wasn't driving, and I don't drive, so right, but yeah, that was just horrible, just so horrible at the time, and I don't think I could sit through it. And then I rewatched. I know that the other night we were talking about bad movies that need to be remade, and I said Spawn, and Curly Girl was like, "Oh, I like Spawn." Well,
right.
I wonder if she could sit through it right now, because see, some of the CGI in that is
Is it
really
bad? It's one of those things that probably doesn't translate that well to, Blu-ray or 4K definition. It just probably doesn't, translate that well to today's, media.
Yeah. See, I can, like I've said before, I can forgive some hokey special effects, like in Blackula, where it's like a cartoon bat when he turns into a bat and it's really awful. I can look past that. But see, when it comes, sometimes with a CGI, it just really, really is off-putting for me. And then Spawn was one of those movies. When it came out in the mid to late 90s, I was fine with it. Right, I mean, I love Michael Jai White and John Leguizamo. They were perfect in the part, and the movie played out pretty well, right, as a dark superhero thing. But the CGI in it, especially when he goes to hell, when he actually goes to hell and he meets the big Malbolgia thing, and it's like, oh, it is really bad. It makes those dancing Muppets from the Labyrinth, the chili down with fire. It makes them look threatening, right? Interesting fact about Spawn, right? Because I read that brilliant book by John Leguizamo, and he went into his whole career in that book. You need to read this one, Players, Haters, and Other Stories. It's one of those titles that you never remember, but there's a great story in it about when he played the Violator and Spawn, the clown character.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, which I thought he did a decent job, but annoying in places, right?
Yeah. When he was in makeup, he was freaky.
Yeah, but when he was doing all the cheerleader stuff, I was like, come on, OTT, and especially since Martin Sheen was in it as the other villain.
Okay.
And he says, we need to start the apocalypse now. You're like, oh, come on, don't say that. Yeah. Right? Not in front of Martin Sheen. But but the thing was, apparently it took him like something like 7 hours to get into that makeup and that suit and stuff like that. Something ridiculous like that. And they were doing the scenes, and he had to go. He had to take a pee. And there was no way that they were gonna get him out of that suit so he could go to the bathroom. So, he took one for the team,
Right.
Yeah, right inside the suit.
Just like not. You got
exactly. I mean, that shows you this level of professionalism there, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure if it was, some other actor, some prima donna, they'd be demanding to get out there. The whole shoot is getting.
I have to pee. Stop production.
I know. Brilliant. I mean, I love that. I mean, see, when you're talking about great practical effects, that kind of, I thought that suit was magnificent. I mean, John Leguizamo, he wouldn't be my first choice to play that character. I would have went with someone more sort of dumpy that looked like an evil clown than get him. But that's what I love about him. He's such a versatile actor. He's played so many different types of characters. You look at him in Romeo and Juliet, right? where he just looks
well, that
worlds
was
apart.
Yeah, he's awesome as Tybalt. I
Yeah,
thought he was.
exactly. He's quite fearsome as well. And other films like where you see him in other films like Hanging with the Homeboys, where he plays a really timid character. You know, he just disappears, and you don't see enough of him. Actually, you see him on a lot of television programs, but not in feature films.
Yeah,
but yeah, for me, practical effects, it's got to be right up the top. RoboCop. I know I talk about that a lot.
No, that's actually a really good one, especially when the guy gets hit with toxins or the radio.
Don't touch me, man. Yeah.
That's a good part.
I know.
Right there.
I know but even the stop motion animation, right? You know, you look at other films with stop motion animation, the old Ray Harryhausen films, or Cue the Winged Serpent. That's not a very good example because it's horrendous in that. But
you know, honestly, I mean, that's kind of like the birth of special effects was, you know, stop motion animation in a lot of ways. You know, King Kong. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, even a lot of the stuff that George Méliès, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, obviously, but you know, the father of special effects, I guess.
Yeah,
You know,
Johnny to the Moon.
Moon was amazing.
Yeah.
I mean,
I suppose so. But yeah, RoboCop is probably the best use of stop motion. With the Ed 209, it doesn't really. When they did it in RoboCop 2, I don't know if they did the same special effects crew for that. I don't think Rob Bottin was involved in RoboCop 2 because I know that Rob Bottin was on hand to design the RoboCop suit and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
But when RoboCop 2 came along, it does look like stop motion. When he's having that battle with Kane at the end of RoboCop 2, it does look like stop motion. Whereas in the first one, when Ed 209 takes that plunge down the steps and it's doing that kicking thing, it is stop motion animation, but it's really well done. The only bit in it that I would criticize is when Dick Jones gets shot through the window at the end, and he's just this Wallace and Gromit character falling down, right? And his arms are really, you know. And it's funny that came out the same year as Die Hard, where you see Alan Rickman take that plunge, and it just so realistic. That's so photorealistic because it was, right?
Really thought he was falling, wasn't it? Like, didn't the director trick him into thinking he was actually, you know,
falling for real?
Falling for real, yeah. I mean, that's one of those things we're saying. You know, it's a genuine thing. You know,
happy accident,
genuine look. Yeah, happy accident. Definitely, they got the reaction out of him they wanted for that spot. You know, that was cool. I mean, he looked genuinely frightened. You know, like he was shitting his pants.
Apparently, he was really peed off after it.
I bet.
Yeah,
but that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, me too. But but yeah, RoboCop is just. I mean, that's the thing about some of these great. We're talking about great practical effects as opposed to CGI, right? Tron, like Lawnmower Man, they get a pass because they're set in this virtual reality realm, right? So that's okay because they're stylized, right? But when you look at something like Spawn or Lost in Space from the late 90s, stuff like that, they look so dated, they age so badly. Where you look at The Thing, American Werewolf from London, Candyman.
Even today.
Yeah, I was watching Candyman just the other week. That film has not aged a day. Not a day. It's just timeless. Absolutely timeless. And I mean, it doesn't lean heavily into special effects a great deal, right?
Yeah.
The movie. But it's just perfect, right? It's just timeless.
Oh, and,
but yeah, that's one thing that's always annoyed me about CGI is it doesn't age very well.
No.
It's not like wine at all.
No, it isn't. Whereas it's kind of like with Pink Floyd. You know, I hate to compare it to music, but I know music a little better than movies in a lot of cases. I mean, like Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon album is still on the top 10 charts.
I think it's number 2 behind Thriller.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, it's I think it has a lot to do with it was just a lot more genuine, those recordings, than a lot of the auto tune crap that you get today. You know, I mean, you know, just
I think it's
not as genuine as it used to be.
I think it's also indicative that a lot of people smoke marijuana. Right?
That's true. Yeah.
But yeah, I when I look at some of these old practical effects, they don't age like that. Here's a great one. It's nearly 50 years old, right? Silent Running. I watched Silent Running last year. It was a request by someone. The models in that, right? The spaceship models, Douglas Trumbull, right? An absolute legend. 2001, Blade Runner, Close Encounters, this guy made, right? And this was his directorial debut, Silent Running. The effects in that are just legendary, right? And it's just spaceships, right, floating through space. It's not big battles or anything like that. And the robots in it, Huey, Dewey, and Louie, are I don't know what they call them, where people were missing their legs and they walk around in their hands. They did the same with Carlo Rambaldi in the ET suit when ET was I don't know the name for it. It's like Ampiquad or something. I don't know. And but that's how they achieved the robots. And Silent Running was there was a person inside it, and they were walking on their hands, and which was kind of the proto R2D2 before Star Wars, because 74 I think Silent Running. This film has not aged. Besides the 70s sideburns, right, that are on display, it's the only kind of giveaway that this movie is old. And it's funny because when Terrence Malick, he made this film called Tree of Life with Brad Pitt. I think it was about 2010, 2012 or something that got made. There's a sequence in it set in outer space. I've never seen this movie, but I've seen this sequence, and it uses what he did. He didn't reach for the CGI people to do this. He went to Douglas Trumbull, got him to do it the old way, the old 2001 Silent Running way, and it looks amazing. So that I
have to check that out.
Yeah, Tree of Life. It's kind of pseudo art piece, I think. I'm not sure, right? It was kind of a big deal when it came out. It was meant to be visually stunning, and particularly for this special effects sequence. And that's it. So even real artists know that. Terrence Malick is quite a highly regarded director, right? Badlands and Thin Red Line and stuff like that. And they know it's like it's a gamble. I think it's a gamble for a director to use a CGI house. I'm not against CGI, right? I see it as a kind of act. It's just another paintbrush in the box, right? That you can use. Yeah. But and we've mentioned some really impressive ones like Terminator 2. We didn't even get to Avatar, right? But I mean, I can't stand Avatar. Vivi loves it. She loves Avatar. She can't wait for the new one to come out. But so are we getting dragged to that one?
Honestly, I thought that it was the first movie, just some sort of rehash new trailer, but I didn't realize that's the actual trailer for the second movie. Just recently, I had no idea. I would have thought there were three or four of those movies, but
it just reminded me of Ferngully from the 90s, the animated film Ferngully, which has got this, it's got this environmental message, right? We need to spend $1 billion to make this environmental message, and it's really here's my cynical side coming out now, right? It's really changed things, hasn't it? In the 12 years since Avatar came out, the environment's got so much better. People are so much, well, maybe you could say people are more active, maybe because of Avatar. Don't know, but it was full of that old white savior cliche that I can't stand. The Dances with Wolves cliche that none of these people would matter unless this white guy came in and saved the day, or he had to experience it in some way to sort of it was like an old cowboy film sort of narrative that bored me to tears. There was some impressive imagery in it. I loved the sort of miracle rocks, which reminded me of a Roger Dean album cover Roger Dean, who did all the Yes covers like Fragile and stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah, not mad on
I'm
Yes.
familiar, but I'm familiar with
apparently someone recommended him to sue James Cameron over some of the imagery in in Avatar. I don't know if that ever came to anything, but yeah, I was rather disappointed, especially there was so hyped that James Cameron's going to take us to the next level. And, as a science fiction visionary, he's one of the best, right? But I felt empty-handed with Avatar. And I know you're not much of a fan either, yeah?
Yeah, I've seen it maybe once, but it wasn't, I don't know, it wasn't all that great. I mean, it's not bad, but I mean, I don't know if it's worthy of any awards. I mean, it was kind of par, if anything, it really didn't get me, it wasn't all that great. I mean, and I'm probably going to not see the second one.
Nice still here. Excellent. Oh, I love Ferngully. No one talks about that movie. It's been forgotten. I'll never forget Ferngully. No way. I'm sure it's got the voice of Tim Curry in there. Anything Tim Curry does, even the terrible Charlie's Angels movie, it gets a pass. I love Tim Curry. Right?
Yeah, he's pretty awesome. Have you seen his interviews recently?
Yeah, because he had a massive stroke, didn't he?
Yeah, I think so. Poor fella, man.
Oh, he's a legend. Absolutely. Here's a strange one that I don't know if Nye's seen. This is going off topic, right? Have you ever seen the film This Shout with Alan Bates, John Hurt, and Tim Curry?
No.
It's a really strange one. It's about this guy, John Hurt, and his wife live in this farm, and he's into sound recording. Right, I love movies about sound recording for some strange reason. I don't know why, but this weird stranger played by Alan Bates turns up, right, and he's a weirdo sort of character, and he has this amazing ability that he can kill people by shouting. Right, that's all I'm going to say about it. But it's one of those really weird movies. Definitely one to wash your curly hair to. Right. There we go. Of course she has. Nothing gets past Nye, honestly. It's she's the encyclopedia of weird ass B movies. My goodness, it's just remarkable.
I first came across Nye's channel with her review of Little Otik, which talks about stop motion animation. That's a pretty crazy movie.
That looked really disturbing to me. That crazy tree child thing.
Yeah, that's.
I know, it's just bizarre how I don't know how she's got that ability, right? I mean, I've got a mad movie brain, but when it comes, a lot of these B movies, they go in one ear and out the other. I'll remember certain images for, I don't know what it is. I do like a good B movie. I do like a piece of trash that could be junk to other people, but I found entertainment value in it. But a lot of the time, they just go under the radar for me. They don't get remembered as well. And I suppose it's nice that people are curating them, because like I said before, Martin Scorsese said this many years ago, that 20% of all the films that have ever been made are gone. They're absolutely gone. They're destroyed. There's a version of The Great Gatsby that doesn't exist anymore. There's the famous Lon Chaney movie. Was it at midnight? Something. What is it?
Yeah. I know which one you're talking about.
What's that called?
I can't remember if it's the man with God.
The Man with 1,000 Faces was the movie about him that James Cagney played him. But no, there's this film. It's like Something at Midnight, and it's the famous Lon Chaney with the spiky teeth.
Yeah, London After Midnight, I think.
I think so. That film does not exist. There's only just photographs of it.
Yeah, that's. I guess that's part of the nomenclature behind Vinegar Syndrome's.
Exactly.
The phenomenon that happens to film after it's been exposed to just extra moisture and such like that. I'm not sure exactly.
Yeah, it's the vinegar syndrome is what happens when film deteriorates. It smells of vinegar.
Oh, okay.
So when you open up a film, old dusty film can, it's like, oh, it's vinegar syndrome. But that's what they do is I think they keep most of the profits though. That's the thing is if they find an old exploitation movie that nobody cares about that's in the public domain, they get that restored. They own all the profit off of that. I mean, there's this one recently. You'll probably get it in one of your packs pretty soon. New York Ninja.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you heard about this?
Might be on their site right now. I think their sales.
Yeah.
I think that's one of them that's on their site. I'm probably mistaken, but
hi Anthony. Nice to see you. Just in time for New York Ninja. There he is. He sneaks in like a New York Ninja, right? Yeah, I saw a thing about this movie. It's some movie that was made in the 80s, right? And it's got no sound. There's no sound to this. They found a film called New York Ninja. I don't even know if that was its original title, but it was filmed in New York. It's got a ninja in it, right?
Yeah.
And it's got no sound. They don't have an audio track for it. They don't have a script. They don't know what this film's about. But they've got actors in, like Cynthia Rothrock and people like that, to dub over the movie, right? And they're not trying to take the mick out of it. It is very silly, right? But they're not trying to take the mick out of it, like in a sort of spoof way. But they've released it. Vinegar Syndrome have cleaned this movie up. They've got proper actors in to dub over the characters and put it out on DVD. And that's fascinating. You know, even though they don't know what the film's about, they don't know what the sound. They don't have the original soundtrack. Get out there anyway. That's good.
That's pretty weird.
You know, I'm all for that. Even if the film is a piece of junk, like I say, I hate Necromantic. Right? I'm sorry, the film's trash to me. Right? It just ruined my day when I saw that back in '98. It absolutely ruined my day. Right? You know, that rainy day got rainier that way. Right?
But you got an explosive climax.
No, but it really ruined my. Yeah. Anyway, but I wouldn't destroy it. I wouldn't do a Mary Whitehouse and say, "Oh, destroy this." Right? No, that's not fair. Because it's not right. Regardless of your opinion of this movie, it is what it is, right? And whether I like it or not is irrelevant. But that's the thing that I think is really shameful. Is I'm not for censorship. As much as I might go, oh, that movie's disturbing, it's freaky, and what have you, I'm against it. I mean, obviously, I'm against child abuse, right? I'm against animals being hurt and things like that, right? And that's just repellent. That's obvious. But when it comes to a film that's about zombies munching on each other or something great, gory special effects, I'm sorry. Why are we getting the word chainsaw taken off our video cover? That's just Nazi stuff to me.
Exactly. It's the same thing, same exact thing that they were doing.
To an extent, but the one that really gets my goat, right,
with the confiscation and destruction of art. I mean, alone right there. That's a Nazi.
What they ultimately did, I mean, in the early 80s in the UK, it was a Conservative government. Margaret Thatcher was at the height of her powers, right? And small businesses were not thriving. Well, the small businesses were doing okay, but the factories were all closing, right? The coal mines were all on strike, right? So the employment rate in this country was horrible. There was massive unemployment in the UK. But video shops, mom and pop video stores, as you would call them, right? They were doing all right, right? And they were turning up everywhere, right? And, you know, things like adult movies and exploitation films is what were keeping them going, right? Because at the time, the big studios like Warner Brothers, 20th Century Fox, they didn't trust videotape at first. They didn't see a profit in it because they wanted people in the cinema. They saw the videotape as the enemy. They're going to copy all the films and sell pirate copy, which they were doing, but that was what they thought about it. They were out to sue the video, and that actually happened. They tried to sue like Sony or JVC, one of those big video machine manufacturers, because they could tape things off of the television. They didn't like the fact that people could tape things off the television and keep a copy of this week's episode of Dallas. Right?
Yeah.
You know, it's weird to think, but they actually did.
You know, I mean, anytime they limit the freedoms of the general populace in favor of a better means of control of media is just inherently wrong.
So, yeah,
man,
and so...
Cigarette on camera, man, I tell you what. You're with your vaping, I'm going to have a cigarette on camera, man. I'm like, so...
Oh, you're going to get nicotine stains on your collection. Go for it, man.
That's why I don't do it in here, man. That's why
I know. But well, I'll wrap this up so you can get a smoke then, right? But I'll right?
It's horrible, man.
I know.
Got me, man. It's just got me.
I know. I've been coming back and forth with the cigarettes and the vape. It's tough. It really is the hardest one to quit, right? And but see, the interesting thing was that, like I said, the exploitation movies and the dirty movies were what came out first on videotape, right? That was what the majority of the video shops were about. And then occasionally Superman, Jaws, Airplane, these movies came out in dribs and drabs, right? The studios would do that occasionally. Enter the Dragon, right? They would test a few of them. They wouldn't put their whole catalogue out. You'd have to wait a while till you got Citizen Kane or Casablanca or something like that, right? They would get Gone with the Wind. But the weird thing is that when this nasty scare happened, which was brought about because of the newspapers, the tabloid newspapers, which were just a wing of the Tory party at the same time, because they were just a mouthpiece of them to an extent. They had that bias at that time. They were attacking these movies because of the video covers, because you buy a video magazine and there'd be the cover for Driller Killer, and the guy's got a drill going right through his head. And the video companies, Vipco being the worst, they were all about shock value. They knew that they wanted to make their covers as shocking as possible. What's the other one? SS Experiment Camp. We've got a topless woman hung upside down on a crucifix with a swastika hanging from her, right? It's just offensive, right? The movie's pants, right? Nobody cares when you watch it. But the cover, oh my goodness. So then Mary Whitehouse got involved, and she was a campaigner against obscenity on television and any sort of media, and that was it. These list of movies were banned, and the small businesses you've spent to get like an original copy for the video store of a film, right? There's Hanging with the Homeboys, right? That's not nasty, but right. But to buy that for your store, right, so that you could rent it out every night, it would cost you about £80 in 1982, thereabouts. £80, so it would be about like $140 at that time.
That's insane,
right? Yeah. So they're coming in. You've spent a fortune on all these movies, zombie, cannibal, whatever, and they're taking them off you. They're not giving you the money for them. These are offensive. They're taking them off you, right? And a guy who rented out, who just, he broke the law. He rented out a film called Nightmare in a Damaged Brain, right? Nightmare in a Damaged Brain. It's called Nightmare around the world. He went to prison. This guy went to prison for a horror film, right? It's business. Went out of business. That's the thing. People were struggling financially at this time in the UK, and the government were making it even harder for people to start up a small business because of a bunch of stupid horror films, right? And you watch them now, right? I just watched the Madhouse, right? The one Nye's favourite movie, right? I watched Madhouse the other night, and there's a couple of scary bits with dogs in it. Other than that, the movie's as tame as anything. Honestly, Bambi's more shocking than this movie, right?
Yeah, it's not that bad.
No, it really isn't.
Some of the stuff that they put on the Video Nasties list, like Drop Dead Gorgeous or I Love You, Hugs and Kisses, or whatever the hell.
Yeah, Nightmare Maker. I had that.
Yeah.
Butcher Baker, Nightmare Maker.
That one's kind of freaky altogether, but I mean, there's a lot of stuff on there that didn't deserve their place on the list. You know, I mean,
the Funhouse, Toby Hooper. That got mistaken for another movie. You know,
right. Last House on Deck.
Yeah, which is that's another one that's really Last House on Dead End Street wasn't really that bad. I saw that eventually, and it was just silly. But Funhouse is a decent slasher film. I love Funhouse. It's a comedy slasher to an extent.
Yeah,
I think by that point, Toby Hooper's kind of going, the slasher. But I mean, because at that point, the slasher was 81, 82. They were everywhere. You know, Prom Night, Halloween 2. There was a lot of slashers going on Friday the 13th, all at the same time. And I think Toby Hooper could see the writing on the wall. He was just like, right, okay, let's put a bit more comedy into these, you know, because they're all the same, you know. Butcher Baker, Butcher Baker's good because I don't remember the actress's name in it. The main character, the kind of creepy mum in it, and I think they have a kind of she has an incestuous relationship with her son in it. She was really good.
Susan Tyrell, she was
Susan
insane.
Tyrell.
Yeah, she's a hell of an actress. She does a great job in that film. So,
what else is she in?
Well, I'm drawing a blank on what else she's in, but she's got a number of gosh, I'm trying to think. I don't know. Really can't think of any other movies she's in right off the top of my head, but it might just be because nicotine fix or whatever. I need to get that going, or I'm screwed, man. I'm really bad about the. I see the cues, like I see you're vaping, and I'm like, oh man, it just kills.
Right. I'm sorry. I'll stop doing it. Right. I'll just start biting the nails. I know. I've been smoking since Ace Ventura came out in 1994.
Oh yeah, man. Me too.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
it's just a long time.
Yeah.
My lungs must be as black as my heart. Hold on, I've totally I missed out on the comments here. All right, this guy, Andrew. Oh, very nice. Enjoy your reviews on the ninja movies. They don't make ninja like they used to back in the 80s. You're right on. You know, I did not want to review ninja movies. That was my partner. She said, stop being on your soapbox moaning about things in the world. You know, people don't want to hear about that. And she says, talk about canon films. And she demanded that the first one that I did was American Ninja. And you know what? She was absolutely right, because the stuntman, Steve Lambert, got in touch with me because he could see that I had a real love for these ninja movies, which I don't really. I mean, I do, but I put myself into that position that, you know, you switch your brain off, you enjoy a ninja movie, right? There's no harm in it. But I was kind of embarrassed doing that, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, no, need to be. I mean, not embarrassed, man. I mean, I think it's cool that you did that series. That was awesome.
Yeah, I do love canon, and it was nice hearing his stories about them. And he was saying that Menahem Golan was a total pussycat, and he feels that the documentaries that they put out about him, there's two of them, the Go-Go Boys and Electric Boogaloo, they do pretty much a hatchet job on him. You know, but you know. People see different sides to people, though, in it. You know, it's one person's opinion in it. Right, so back to the chat here. Watched Tenebrae for the first time. Yeah, Tenebrae is awesome. That's my brother's favourite horror film. You've seen that, yeah? Dario Argento? Tenebrae? Hold on, where's the...
Tenebrae. It's a good one.
Yeah, I remember there's a part in it where a girl gets her arm hacked off, and it's just this big white wall. It's almost like a canvas, right? It's almost like Jackson Pollock, and she just sprays the whole wall with the gushing of blood. Yeah, that sticks out to me, and there's an axe death in it that's really painful. That's what I like about Dario Argento. His kills, he makes it look really sore. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure. I do like some Dario Argento stuff too. Definitely had some good special effects makeup folks on hand for his movies. That Tenebrae is definitely a really interesting film. At least some of the special effects in it are amazing. That blood spatter scene from that you were just mentioning is one of them. But the opening scene is pretty good too. I keep getting phone calls. Don't mind me.
I know. Is this the CDC? That's right.
Well, no, now it's my daughter, but I don't know what she's calling about exactly, so I'm not sure if it's a valid thing or not. So I'm not gonna.
Well, we could wrap this up, but if you've got family business, you're my guest, right? You're the boss. Well, yeah, that's probably a good idea, right? But we've got Fever Dreamland here. Terence, you're right in terms of control of the media. Hold on, I'll put this on the screen. Yeah. So much of what you are talking about ties to nowadays when we are pushed towards streaming movies, music, and TV, and why they steer us away from physical media. I don't really get what you mean in the sense that when I was talking about censorship. Ties now.
Earthquake there.
Yeah. Do you get earthquakes in Indiana?
Not really. But we are kind of by the New Madrid fault line, from what I understand, or at least, well, I don't know. It's been years since I've really checked the fault lines, to be honest with you. We don't get many earthquakes around here.
I think what Anthony's getting at is that the streaming platforms, maybe they're kind of censored in some way, because I know that Disney Plus, that is just horrendous what they did to. I know it might sound sleazy, right? In Splash, the film with Daryl Hannah and Tom Hanks, Ron Howard. There's a sequence in it where she runs into the water and you can see her butt crack, right? You see her butt as she's just running into the water. There's a bum. Oh, there's a bum, right? So what they did on Disney Plus, is they extended her hair really badly. It looks really bad to cover her butt as she runs in. It's really awful. It's the worst effect ever. They've put no effort into this, right? To disguise her bum cheeks, right? And it kills the joke, because the joke is she's a character from the ocean who doesn't feel that clothes are a big issue, right? She's not of this world, and this is exemplary of her character, right? You could say, but the camera's just leering at us, the male gaze, all that stuff. I don't think so. It's indicative of the character, and you're taking that out of the movie. And also, this isn't Ron Howard, the director, who's decided to do this. He's not given them permission to do this, right? It's the Disney of just puritanical, just like, let's get rid of a butt cheek. Nobody was ever offended with. The movie's been out for over 30 odd years. Nobody's went, right, we need to do something about Splash. That film is just downright offensive. No. Somebody just decided we're going to censor Splash for no bloody reason. That just, what?
Yeah, it's kind of a stupid thing. Doesn't make much sense, really.
And it's like the resurrection of dead people in films. I feel they're testing the water with us. They're going to censor Splash. What are they going to do? They're going to censor Bambi next. Are they going to do? Are we going to get everything all changed about into these bastardized versions? So I guess that's what Fever Dreamland is getting at, Anthony, is that the streaming platforms are maybe doing a hatchet job on these films. Whereas you've got the physical media there, you've got a really good Blu-ray copy of said film that no one can take away from you. No, you're not going to get this awful censored, because that's pointless to me. I'm sorry, nobody complained about Splash. Okay, we could sit and argue that's sleazy, or what have you, but that's debatable. I don't think so. I think it's It's part of this. It's part of the storytelling, visual storytelling of this character. She runs into the bar.
I don't even remember that part. You know, where
Exactly. No.
It doesn't register. You know, I mean, and there's no reason to remove it. I mean,
yeah.
If I was watching that as a child, so I don't see what's the difference between now and then and now, as far as children go.
I know that it just really disturbs me that there's one going back to Mary Whitehouse, right? And you need to see this. Actually, this is brilliant. Back in the 1960s, there was a movie of the week that BBC made. Right, Neil, what's his name? The Quatermass guy. He also wrote Halloween 3. Oh,
don't know.
Oh, it's going to Nigel Neal. Nigel Neal is this author. He created Quatermass, Quatermass in the Pit and stuff like that. Right, he's really a big deal in Britain. He did this amazing television movie from the 1960s called The Year of the Sex Olympics. Have you ever heard of it? I know. No. It's got one of those. It's got a very provocative name, right?
Yeah.
But there is absolutely no. It was shown on BBC television. There was that in the late 60s, and there's no sex in it. It's got Brian Cox in it. You know, the original Hannibal Lecter. He's in it, and it is this film predicts reality television of the future, basically, right? Oh. And it's pretty much the first iteration of something like The Running Man. Right, something like that, where it's about in the distant future. They have this event called the Year of the Sex Olympics, right? Because explicit pornography is on television at all times. It's almost like that's the norm in this future, right?
Yeah.
And the people watch this and they're bored. The audience are bored watching this on television. Just like you see like this image of the audience just like completely bored, where you don't see the explicit sex that they're watching, right?
Sure.
But you know that you get told that's what they're watching. And so the television executives of the future, they're like, what are we doing wrong? We've got the Sex Olympics, you can't get any better than that. And they're all got this like, this strange future, right? And right. And what happens is someone accidentally gets killed in the process of making this television series, right? And the whole audience are like in rapture, like, oh, wow, they've like woken up out of their slumber, right?
Yeah.
This bored audience. It's almost like the television, the pornography on television is there to keep them in line, to keep them from thinking outside of the box or going against society. And they start to feel this way. And now they decide to come up with a whole new show where they're going to send people off into the wilderness to try and survive, right, together, which is almost like reflective of reality television that came about in the early 2000s, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Right. So you need to check this out. I don't know if it's all on YouTube. It probably isn't. You can get it on DVD. But going back to the censorship was that Mary Whitehouse, she saw the name of this program, right? That was it. That was enough for her, right? We need to get rid of this show, protest, all that sort of stuff. So what actually happened was, and it was in full color. The BBC made it in full color, and you can tell when you watch it that it's got these like psychedelic 60s-esque costumes in the show and glitter, all that stuff all over people, and it's weird. But they did away. They destroyed it. The BBC actually destroyed the color copy of this film. There's only a black and white version of it exists now on DVD, and it's great. It was ahead of its time. I guess they shouldn't have called it that. They should have called it like Future TV or something, and maybe she wouldn't have got annoyed. But
yeah, who knew what would have drawn down the wrath of Mary Whitehouse or
I know.
That lady was that you were just talking about. What the hell is her name? Good God. Margaret Thatcher. Oh my God. I can't believe I forgot her name. She's
oh yeah. She was frightening. I mean, as a leader, she had a lot of power, right? I mean, I mean, there's not. I'm all for female leaders, absolutely, and we need more of them. But Margaret Thatcher, even as a child, seeing her on television, never mind all this sort of satire stuff that was on TV, I just found her quite frightening, quite kind of fierce, right?
She's I never experienced her that much when I was a kid, but she definitely looked a bit freaky. Definitely looked a bit scary in the pictures I've seen from the past. But
I was not impressed with the Meryl Streep movie. I thought her performance was excellent as Margaret Thatcher, but it didn't really give you anything, except it was just like, we've just read Margaret Thatcher's Wikipedia page and just adapted that for the screen. It was very shallow. It didn't give you anything about any depth to the character or anything about her time in government. I much prefer Nixon with Anthony Hopkins for that. I think Nixon is a better version of that kind of story of seeing someone being, really powerful and, corrupted in that way. That's a good movie, actually, Nixon with Anthony Hopkins. But we've got some more chat here. What was it? Very late to the chat, but worst use of CGI in your opinion? Karen's jumped right in there. Piranhaconda, hands down, worst CGI I have ever seen. Piranhaconda. That's like I'm too busy to watch Piranha and I'm too busy to watch Anaconda. I know I'll watch Piranhaconda. That'll save me some time.
Sounds like a hell of a movie.
Yeah, absolutely. See, Snakes on a Plane's pretty dire, actually. Not all of it. I mean, for CGI, they had a terrible boa constrictor. I remember that looking really bad. I kind of liked Snakes on a Plane. I liked how it was probably the only time where the audience were right. Because nowadays where they did that last Star Wars film and all the fanboys were all coming down on it saying, oh, Rey has got to be Palpatine's granddaughter. And they just went, right, okay, let's just make that. Let's just give you what you want, make it as predictable as you want. And that was why it was so bad. Because the previous one was unpredictable. Whereas Snakes on a Plane, that was kind of like the first example where, oh, did you hear that there's this movie called Snakes on a Plane with Samuel Jackson? Oh, he's got to say, we got to get these motherfucking snakes off this motherfucking plane. He's got to say that in the movie, right? And everybody was going on the line saying that, and they hadn't even written that line. So they went back and did some reshoots, made sure that Samuel L. Jackson said that in the movie. That was great. And that's the only time where the sort of fan service actually worked. What would you say, worst CGI? You had Transformers, didn't you?
Yeah, that was mine at least. I mean, as far as the earliest stuff, I mean, really didn't like Lawnmower Man the way it
yeah,
but it was one of the first ones that I had seen, and like I was saying, I don't know how well it transfers to 4K or whatever, but from what I understand, early CGI doesn't really transfer that well to 4K.
Yeah, Curly Girl totally agrees with me there. That was the best part of the movie. Yeah, I know, where the internet fanboys wrote the script.
What's that? What
the
part was?
Snakes on a Plane. Gotta get these motherfucking snakes off this motherfucking plane. Yeah, I know. I honestly, I can't remember much else about it except there was a terrible boa constrictor in it. Yeah. Oh, your man MSJ is saying he forgot about Lawnmower Man, but hey, what about Lawnmower Man 2? Hey, where's Nye? Where's Nye? Yeah. Yeah. She'll probably have in her wee DVD case. Lawnmower Man 2. Oh, do you know a real bad CGI movie, but it's a guilty pleasure of mine, and that's Virtuosity. With Russell Crowe and Denzel Washington.
Oh,
have you seen that?
I thought at first you were going to say Existence with.
I'm not guilty of Existence. I love Existence and I'm proud of it. But Virtuosity, yeah, yeah, of course. seen Lawnmower Man 2. Virtuosity is this one where Russell Crowe is like an evil computer program who comes into the real world. It's the same director of Lawnmower Man. And Denzel Washington's some badass that's got to chase them down. It is crazy. There's a scene in it where he makes all these. Russell Crowe has just been horrible to this group of people, and they're all like screaming like, "Ah!" and he's like conducting it like like an audience, like like a conductor with their screams. He's like, "Oh," it's just Russell Crowe just chewing up the scenery. And the CGI in it is quite horrendous. Yeah, I know I say horrendous a lot, but yeah, it is. Oh, you need to check it out. You need to check it out. You might hate it. You might, because that's what I'm saying. It's a guilty pleasure, so it's one of those ones that's kind of, you probably hate me for liking it.
Heck, man, like what you like. I won't ever complain. I know how that is. I know a lot of people for what I like, but forget about them if they don't like it. I don't care. Well,
I just did a live stream over at Video Tasties channel talking about how much I love Hudson Hawk, right?
Yeah, I think I was there for part of that at least.
I've got a really tricky month this month. I've got, as you know, I'm doing requests, right? I'm doing requests because that's easy to do. Yeah. I'm doing requests for people, and one of my subscribers asked me to do Nightmare on Elm Street 2010, the 2010 version, which I haven't seen. I know, which I haven't seen, right? So I'm going in with low expectations, right? So
you lower them even more, man, because it's going to be really bad.
Oh no, I know, but I don't want to do a hatchet. I hate being negative on films. That's one thing I need to stop doing is being, there's got to be a way to let them down easy.
Yeah.
Right.
So I mean, with something like the Nightmare on Elm Street remake, the only good thing about that is Rooney Mara. I mean, and she's even that. I don't know. It wasn't. I didn't like it. Let's just put it that way.
Is she the stand-in for Nancy? Is she the new Heather Langenkamp?
Yeah. And she does an all right job, but the whole movie is just a failure, in my opinion. I don't know. I couldn't really give it much. I didn't like it at all.
Well, my expectations are in the basement anyway, so yeah. I'm sure it's got. I don't know. I'll let you know, right? But I have to do it, right? She asked for me to do it, so I have to do it, right? So I just don't like pure. Some people haven't seen the original. That's the thing. They see the remake and they think that's the new. I know that like Curly Girl said that she wasn't aware that some of the
1980s, because it wasn't like people are spoiled today because they see all these excellent CGI effects and they don't know what it was to have only practical effects available. And and to a certain degree, I don't really know how it was in the 60s or 70s, but I mean, people are spoiled today when they see these new CGI movies. I mean, obviously they're going to look at Fright Night or Nightmare on Elm Street in 1984 or whatever and be like, oh well, this is a piece of crap. Well, they don't know what they're talking about. Just like I mean, I don't know. I don't really put a whole lot of stock into
you'll need to answer this one, Wes. I still haven't seen any of the Conjuring films. I've not seen any of the Insidious films. I know. Yeah. I'm really, when it comes to the last 20 years of horror, it's a bit of a blank page with me, to be honest. I know, and it's good, and I want to get caught up. But how do you feel about The Conjuring 3 as far as CGI goes? Ask Karen.
I haven't seen The Conjuring 3. I've seen the first two. I've only seen Conjuring 1 and 2, so I can't really comment on part 3 because I haven't seen it, but I don't know.
Right.
I'm not sure. I've only seen part 1 and 2. And I don't know. There's something about them that I don't know. It doesn't really ring that true. I don't really like them that much, but I don't know.
Sharknado. You seen
So
Sharknado?
yeah. Well, I mean, we had to kind of watch it one Thanksgiving. I think it was on TV, and my dad put it on for me and the kids, and boy, it was a hell of a weird movie. I
It's
mean,
meant to be bad though, wasn't it? That you can kind of tell they made that to be bad. It wasn't like The Room, but it's kind of accidentally bad, or Plan 9 from Outer Space.
yeah,
There's
but the
a
fact they've capitalized off it is just kind of. I
oh,
mean, do it once, that's one thing, but to make various sequels of it is just kind of ridiculous, and I don't know.
I feel that way about the Human Centipede as well. I think that I remember being at a party many years ago, and someone came up to me and said, "Oh, have you heard of this film, Human Centipede?" And it's like, all right,
Yeah,
what's that all about? And it's about people connected in this weird way. And then
yeah,
I think I think I saw some of it, and it just looked kind of amateur to me. I was like, okay, so it's got this ridiculous concept, but it just looked really crap. I didn't sit through it all. I saw some of it, and I just went, this is crap. I'm not bothered by this. And then
yeah.
there's more of them. There's more and more Human Centipede movies. I'm like,
Yeah, the
there's a
second one's bad. I get it's bad, but I mean it's the third one is horrible.
good
I
night,
don't.
BAQ. Thanks for coming. Yeah, I think it got the second one. I think the second one got heavily censored in this country for being
Yeah,
too nasty.
it's
I'd lost interest.
a filthy movie. It's pretty bad. But part three is just ridiculous. Nearly, it's more of a comedy than it is a horror movie, and part two is scarier than the first and third combined. I think it's just freaky as hell. You know, it's a darker concept, and it's in black and white entirely.
Yeah, why? Why?
Good
You
point.
know,
Probably just to
it's
save
like,
on the blood budget is my guess, so that way they can make all the blood just straight black, so that way they didn't have to worry about
I mean,
you
I
know.
can understand. I can understand a film like Schindler's List or Raging Bull or Ed Wood, for that matter, being in black and white, right? It kind of there's a stylistic choice there that suits the subject matter, whereas Human Centipede, right? I
Well, I
mean,
but honestly, it had to do with the nature of the centipede itself, because they were doing a lot of up close and personal shots, and as well as kind of
oh,
like a longer centipede altogether. So I don't think that they could have done a lot of the effects with just red or red and body like gore. I don't know, that's
right.
just my opinion, but I mean
But
it
here's,
not
there's
offending
one.
or anything, but
There's one that's still banned in this country. I wonder if I think you might actually have it. I don't know because you had so many DVDs last week and you were going through them all one at a
yeah,
time. Murder Set Pieces. Have you heard of
yeah, I
that
don't
one?
have the uncut version, but I have the extremely destroyed Lionsgate version, and it's a horrible piece of crap. Don't get me wrong. I don't really, and I'm not trying to be negative or anything, but it's pretty much it's a terrible film. I mean, it has no story whatsoever. Although some of the gore is pretty good.
Good
It's not.
night. Right, MSJ, thank you for your time.
Yeah, thanks
Honestly.
for coming by, Max. You rule. And Curly Girl and Karen and Nye.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming by,
Yeah,
man.
thank you so much for listening to us drone on about boring old films. But
Yeah,
the
Fever Dreamland Theater. Thanks for coming by.
yeah, I know so many of you. It's really nice. Thank you. But I used to read this magazine that would go into the censorship in this country because I find it fascinating. I've always found it fascinating because since I couldn't get to see the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I couldn't get to see all these films. I always found it was always really illicit. That's how I ended up seeing Necromantic at such a stupid age, was because I went down this rabbit hole I found this flea market, and it's called the Barras. It's notorious in Glasgow, right? It's a notorious place, and there was this one stall, and they had a list. They had everything that was banned in this country. They had it, and a friend of mine, he was more like Curly Girl in that sense, right? He had that kind of, I'm more determined to see the most weirdest things than anybody. And the one,
yeah,
and the one
I got some challenges for Curly Girl when it comes to disgusting movies and watching and eating lunch. There's some stuff that she should see if you know. I mean, obviously,
don't know how she does it. I mean, I remember watching Zombie Creeping Flesh while I had a takeaway, and I couldn't finish. It put me right off my takeaway. I was like, right, that's it. You know, that's a nonsense film, piece of garbage, right? It is a piece of garbage, right? And that was enough to just put. I mean, I get put off my food quite easily. I'm such a pure prude that way, but right, but
I don't
that
know.
was the thing.
I mean, over the years, I've probably gotten a little bit better about that kind of stuff. Is it all right if I? I mean, I hate to ask, but it's gone kind of long, and I really
no, go for it. I'm gonna have the rest of this one. No, go for it. If you need to smoke, go for it.
By the way, kids,
thank you so much for coming over. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, thank you all for coming by. I mean,
yeah, you too, Karen. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. But
I'm sorry for cutting the smoking so fast. It's just I wanted to continue talking with you, even if everyone's leaving. You know, the thing is, you know, I can't function properly unless I have certain substances going inside me, and it's just kind of one of those things. And nicotine is one of those things that I must have. And unfortunately,
it's the last one. So it's the last one for me. I've not touched a drink since September. I've not had a joint since August. I used to smoke bags and bags of weed. Like, you know, I couldn't function without it, and now I don't touch it at all. Yeah. And it's great. It is the best. It is the. I feel
getting off the weed. Not that I had to get off the weed, but I mean, it was difficult to. I don't know. I was just having a hell of a anxiety problem without weed.
Right. See, that's the thing. I think anything can become addictive. If you enjoy something, it can become addictive. Right. Yeah. And I, you know, some people say I've got an addictive personality. Really? Does that mean I'm addicted to you? No, I just think that, you know, you like something, you love donuts. You know, donuts are kind of becoming my new thing. Then you'll probably enjoy it too much. You know, yeah. I would say when I was 8 years old, I was addicted to horror films. That was it. You know, I'd go to the video shop and it was like, I don't want to see any of that stuff. I'll just get Nightmare on Elm Street again. Well, I cheated. I copied it out of the shop. I had my own copy. Yeah, I was a notorious video pirate. I had a friend that went to Cyprus in the mid-90s, right? And he just brought back all these pirate movies. Brought all these pirate movies back from Cyprus, and we would just copy them, and then go to the Barras, which was the place they would sell all the pirate movies, and we would sell them to them. And we were like teenage boys. That was what we did. Yeah, it was ridiculous. But like I was saying, there was this flea market stall where they had all these nasty films. And the one I wanted, because I'd already seen Chainsaw 1 and Chainsaw 2, but I hadn't seen Chainsaw 3, which was banned as well. Oh. So I was desperate to see Chainsaw 3, which was a waste of time, right? Because it's pretty pants. But my friend, he'd read in a magazine somewhere that this movie, Necromantic, was made to be banned. That's what it said in this. That was all he knew. Necromantic was made to be banned. And I'm like, I don't even know what necromantic meant, right? It is kind of meaningless, really, anyway. I mean, it's not even spelt right. And, yeah. And we sat and watched it, and we were horrified, both of us. And even him, and he was the curly girl of his day, right? right? And he was horrified. And I was like, I'm taking this home and I'm taping over this. I got Scream 2 out of the video store, right? And I taped over it with Scream 2.
Oh wow!
That day, it was gone.
Somebody must have had a real experience thinking they were watching Necromantic and Scream 2 came on.
Well, I kept the tape. I'd scored it out and wrote Scream 2 over it.
Yeah, it was a rental or something.
Gone. But I made sure every bit of that film was gone because I thought I didn't think it was real, right? But it just had this real. It maybe lost a couple of generations in the copy as well, so it just had this dinginess to it that it just made me feel sick to my stomach, right? And watching these guys, Necromantic, such a wholesome movie, and watching these guys talk about it and Curly Girl making jokes about it, it just kind of dissipated. The years this movie's haunted me, right? In a weird way, not daily, right? But whenever people brought it up, I would get these images that would come in. I worked with a guy and he loved it. He's like, oh, Necromantic, the music in it is brilliant. And just talking to him, that's
what he's got to say about that movie. I mean, damn. The music. The music is so corny. I don't know what to do with the movie.
Yes, I know. And the Oscar for Best Song goes to the love theme from Necromantic. Here's Barbra Streisand coming out to sing to this rotted corpse. Watch how she sucks out the eyeball.
Jesus Christ.
No, it just, but yeah, it really upset me. It's just because it wasn't what I didn't know what to expect, right? I was waiting for a zombie movie or something. I don't know. But it put me.
I guess it's right. Explain in the title what it is about, but I don't know exactly. I mean, it's not the greatest film ever. It's not got the best effects, but it does have some. It does have some really crazy scenes in it. I don't know.
That's the thing. I think the amateurness of it added to that. I think the fact that it was kind of amateur hour made it seem kind of snuff, as opposed to Last House on the Left. You can tell that Last House on the Left is a film that's been acted here, and it's there's actors in this, and you can see that even though it's disturbing. Same with Cannibal Holocaust as well. It is a film, right, with a proper cast. But Necromantic to me just seemed like, this is really on the edge. Yeah,
it was.
I don't know.
Weird, strange film.
I think I might do I think I will revisit it actually, just to overcome that.
Not a bad idea.
Like, why not?
The last scene is just too much, for most people, and I remember B-Movie Badness's Necromantic 2.
Hilarious.
Couldn't get through any of it. She was just like, "This is ridiculous," and it is.
She definitely topped me in the reaction stakes. Honestly, that video is just well done. Now that is the funniest. That is the funniest. You should be so proud of that. Honestly, the scene with the cat was hard to watch. I take it there's a more animal cruelty in it. Yeah, I never bothered with the second one. I had an opportunity to see it many years ago, and I was just like, I remember seeing the cover with the women in the tights and the stilettos, and I was like, right, no thanks. But that video was gut-bustingly funny. Seriously.
Yeah.
You suffered for our entertainment. Thank you. You need to do more. You need to do more like that. You need more suffering, please. Maybe that's what we should do. Maybe we should do a sort of trade-off. Like, I'm a movie wimp, right? Give me something and I'll watch it, and you can see me watch it, right? Even if it's something with horrible spiders, that terrible scene in the Beyond or something, I'll do it. Why not?
Those are tarantulas, man. In that part.
Oh. See, that was the thing about arachnophobia that was really funny for me, was that Julian Sands' character, he's the science genius, right, about spiders, right? And he goes into the barn. I completely forgot about that scene. He goes into the barn to get to the web, and the fucking spider jumps right on his back and kills him. And you're like, you're an idiot. I'm sorry. You know, it's like, you're supposed to be the expert in this. You just walk straight into a trap like that. What an idiot. Oh, yeah, let's not talk about spiders. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
There's one I do want to revisit that I seen as a kid that kind of creeped me out, but I wasn't that mad about spiders. It was called B-movie badness. I'll know this one. The giant spider invasion. Have you got that one now? The giant spider invasion. I think there's a scene in it where they've got like a car and they've got like this fake spider made out of the car. It's awful. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, hi, Shorty. How you doing? Thanks for coming. Yeah, the giant spider invasion is really bad. I don't know where it's from, the 70s or something, but I seen it on TV one time. Creeped me out a wee bit. But yeah, I never heard of it, sadly. Right, we've found it. We've found the movie. Yes, we've found the elusive B-movie. Yes, you win a special prize for that. You know, oh, so that's 3 hours and 10 minutes. My goodness, could have watched Malcolm X in that time. No, we still got 20 minutes to go. Oh, fantastic! So you want to wrap it up? I mean,
yeah, we might as well. I've still got to do some chores around the house as of now. I got home from work and went straight online with you, man.
Oh, what's happened there? Oh, you still there? Yeah, sorry, the laptop took a bit of a belly flop there.
Oh,
I'm sorry if I've just burned the face off you. And thank you for interrupting me when you did, because honestly, I'd still be chatting till the cows come home. I love to talk about movies.
The smoke, or I was gonna just lose my shit, man.
Oh, great. Well, honestly, and thank you, Nye, and Curly Girl, and Karen, if you're still here. And it was nice to see you too, Shorty. Thank you for showing up as well. I'm really glad you're doing well. And feel free to just grab people in the chat, you know, connect with people. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. I'm really not very good at doing goodbyes, you know. I need to work this out, how to do it properly.
Well, but yeah, again, Terrence, for having me on, man. It's, you know,
anytime.
Man.
Hi, Babeng. Late to the party, but yeah, feel free to grab whoever you want, Babeng. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant, Wes. I had a terrific evening. Good night, everybody. I hope you all stay safe. Can't wait for the to watch The Sadness again. I'm gonna get some sleep. I'm gonna stay up for it and not be a grumpy git at the end. I'm sorry if Curly and Karen, if I was a bit of a grumpy old sod. I get that way when I'm tired, right?
No, I'm sorry for keeping you up so late, Terrence. I mean, I feel bad, man. We've got to do this at a time that's mutually, you know, beneficial for both of us, man.
Well, here, let me just rub it into you all, right? I've got 3 days off, right? I'm off tomorrow, Thursday and Friday, so that'll make you feel a lot better. It's the Queen's birthday, or the Queen's Jubilee, so we're getting 2 days. We're getting 2 days off because the Queen is still alive.
That's cool.
You know? Yeah, God save the Queen.
Yeah.
I know.
Queen, cheers, man.
One of the few benefits. But yeah, good night, everybody. Best wishes. Good night.